All right. Hopefully it doesn't do an echo triple whammy. All right, there we go. Now let's go ahead and go live here. And we're going live. All right. Okay. Thanks again for joining us, guys. Keep letting us know where you're tuning in from. We are going to be kicking things off. All right. I hope folks can hear me. Let me know in the chat if you can hear us. Derrick, let me know if you can hear me. And if you're having trouble joining Derrick, then we will. I'll just do my little piece first. So let's get that going there, and this here, and where's that? There's that. We'll go full screen. Okay, that should be working, I hope. We're doing it live, everybody. Let me F11 here, function F11. Okay, it's fine. Everyone can see the tabs. No problem. Okay, let me know. I just had a show right before this, so my apologies. Let me know if it's working on YouTube. Derrick, talk for me. Derrick, can you hear me? All right. Okay, we're going to roll with it. Let me know, Derrick, if you can hear on YouTube. I can't hear you in the thing. So let's go ahead and rock and roll, guys. We are going to get right down to it. Yeah, I can't hear you, Derrick. I got nothing. There's a test screen before. There's Michael Mankinder. All right, I'm going to let you figure that out there, Mr. Derrick, and then feel free to pop in and try. You should be able to test it, though, right? If you get it working on the screen before, then you'll be able to work on while we're here. All right, there's Mr. Derrick. Okay, here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, let me know if YouTube. Okay. All right. Shout out to the YouTube audience, which should be working. And let's go ahead and get right down to it. Thank you for joining us for the 13th Freedom Cells International Activation Call. Today, we are going to be breaking down some key strategies that you can leverage in your Freedom Cell group. We're also going to open up the floor for question and answer, for sharing best practices, for sharing any concerns about this crazy Freedom Cell thing that we have going here. But first, I'm going to give a little introduction to what the Freedom Cell Network is all about, our key defining principles, and how you can get involved deeper depending on where it is that you guys are. Okay, so first of all, let's go ahead and check out the website, freedomcells.org. Freedomcells.org. Let me share my screen here. This is where we do a lot of our organizing. A lot of the organizing for the Freedom Cell Network is done on freedomcells.org website, which is a website organized by Derrick and I and our crew. All right, so there's Derrick again. How are you, Derrick?
I think I'm good.
There he is, the one, the only. Okay, cool. All right, so I was just introducing what the network is all about, and then I'll kick it over here to you to help introduce what we got going on. So freedomcells.org is a website where you can register for free, and then you can tap into a community. Now, as you can see, there's 42,629 members. Essentially, there's 42,629 people that have registered on this site. Now, by no means are all of those people still active, but if you're looking to find people in your area, this is a great place to start. You may find folks who had a dormant account. You may find a cell or a group that's no longer active. What we're trying to encourage folks to do with this network and this community is take proactive steps, right? Far too often, Derrick and I hear, hey, I went to the website and there was a group or there's people, but nobody responded. Look, in all honesty, that may happen, but here's what we need from you guys. Those of you that are on this call now, 227 people, 1,000 people or so signed up for this call. That's the fresh momentum. Maybe some of you guys have been in the game for a while. Maybe you're just wanting to get tapped in. We're relying on you guys. We need you guys to take action, to reignite groups, to start new groups, okay? So check out the website, freedomcells.org. Register. You'll be invited to add a point on a map. Don't use your home address. Put the coffee shop down the street, the restaurant you might meet up at, the park down the road, and then see if there's other people in your area. We're also very active on Telegram. I'll be dropping some links in the chat and highlighting them as we go on the call. But if you register on the website, you can access the Telegram groups there as well. So those are the two key places that kind of form a public square to find people. Once you find people and connect with them, you can start a private encrypted group on Session or Signal or whatever to really be more intimate and more private and secure. But what this movement is all about is meeting up in real life. And so before we get to the principles, Derrick, do you want to share about why it's so important to meet up in real life and maybe talk about some of your history with the Freedom Cell groups in Houston and now in Mexico?
Sure. Can you guys still hear me okay?
Yeah, you're coming through good.
Cool. So yeah, thanks everybody for joining us today, and thank you, John, for getting things started. Yeah, and I've been trying to build Freedom Cells along with John for, I guess, about a decade now, starting here in Houston, Texas, which is where I'm at right now, and continuing in Mexico, where I live now. I will say that one of the things I want to address today, and I hope that we hear from people in the chat, as well as maybe anybody who wants to pop on screen, there's a number of concerns people face. We hear common challenges like, I know a big one is just how do you keep people motivated? And then there's one that's coming up a lot recently that I'm going to get in, that I want to share on. And that's like, how do you deal with difficult people? There's always going to be challenges. I guess I want to start with saying there's always going to be challenges. Like John said, you might be the person who goes to freedomcells.org right now. I see people commenting saying, I started the cell, I post about it, but I don't really hear anybody. I get that. Sometimes it's a struggle, hosting activist meetings and Freedom Cell meetings for altogether more than 15 years. There's some months where you get 50 people show up, and that feels great. And there's a lot of energy in the room, and there's a lot of momentum, and everybody's got ideas, and plans are being made, and goals are being set. And then maybe you accomplish some of those goals, but then maybe a few months later or a year later or something like that, you get 5 or 10 people that show up, and that feels a little less exciting, but still good that you have anybody willing to show up. But I know it can kind of be disheartening. And then there's always, the potential you might have a meeting and no one shows up, or one other person shows up. I just want to encourage everybody to not be discouraged by those moments, because unfortunately, our fellow human brothers and sisters, and maybe even some of us here in this room, are often only motivated whenever the world seems really crazy. So if you saw the emails that we've been sending out, we kind of were, discussing the wars that are happening now and how this is just another reason why we need to be organized on a local level. During COVID, like the numbers John showed on the website, most of those numbers came because of COVID 1984. Prior to COVID, there was only 1,000 or 2,000 people on the website. Something bad happened, and all of a sudden, a lot of people got highly motivated and decided they wanted to get organized and connected on the local level. Then as things start to go back to normal, quote unquote, less and less people are active. So there's 40,000 people on there, but that doesn't mean those people are active, unfortunately. We wish they were all active. And even on the Telegram group, some of them were really, really, popping, and across Mexico and across the world, and Europe and Canada and India and places like that. And I'm sure a good chunk of those groups are pretty much just, inactive or no longer being used. That doesn't mean that there can't be a revival of that energy, but I just want to kind of put that out there, that just be aware that things tend to go in cycles. I wish it wasn't that way. And there's going to be those of us who just stay motivated regardless of what's going on, and just stay focused, which is hopefully the the people we're talking to today. But if you have moments where you're struggling to get people activated, just roll with it and just keep pushing at it. Or maybe you take a break for a little bit and then you revisit it once the energy has kind of shifted or changed or evolved or whatever. But for me, in my practice, I just stayed consistent with it, even before doing Freedom Cells, when I was just doing an activist group. And what I learned through that sort of helped me with what I ended up being involved with Freedom Cells, is just to consistently keep meeting, trying to meet. And like I said, even if it's a couple of people that only show up, especially in the case of Freedom Cells, honestly, I'd rather have a meeting of 5 people who are motivated and actually want to get out and get stuff done than a group of 100 people that show up, but none of them actually take any action. They're just there to kind of chat it up, or, just came out for whatever reason, but they're not actually going to do anything. And they're not going to be the kind of people that you can set goals with, or that you can accomplish goals with and build a garden, or get on alternative currencies, or use encrypted chats, or whatever it may be that calls to you as far as Freedom Cells and organizing and your local community goes. So even if it's a small group, sometimes that's all you need. Because I sometimes tell people that the freedom cells is intended to be like taking, many of you are probably already in other activist groups, whether that's in person or online, and that's great. But Freedom Cells is different. We're not just another activist movement that's just meeting and talking, or meeting and doing nothing, which unfortunately that's what a lot of them end up becoming. And what happens is people get disenfranchised, they get bored, and they just stop showing up. But if you're somebody who's highly motivated, go to those other activist meetings and find the other people who are highly motivated and encourage them to start a freedom cell with you. That's really what it is find like the doers, the activated people, not just the people who are like, oh, I'm awake and I just want to sit around and talk about conspiracies. There's a time and a place for that, but that's not what Freedom Cells is about. Freedom Cells isn't about debating politics, debating conspiracies, complaining that everybody else is a sheep and you're so awake, or any of those kind of things. It's about finding the people who truly want to get activated and want to take action, coming together. How do we do that on the local level, in our own backyards, taking inspiration from what other people do in other places, and then building these sort of decentralized parallel networks? And I honestly think, John, that probably now is a great time. I think maybe Freedom Cells, as I was saying, it has moments of ebbing and flowing, but I think right now it seems in the last year that way more people are awake to technocracy and are understanding this idea of building parallel systems and alternative systems. So I feel like, yeah, maybe this is the moment where we're going to see another spike.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. And to echo what Derrick was saying, we're really trying to encourage people to just stay persistent with your exit and build goals. And what the Freedom Cell Network is all about is helping you to find other people that are also motivated by solutions, and they're focused on all of that. We're not trying to react. We're not trying to get the next guy elected or this guy unelected. We're really trying to live these principles and to build a more free world. So yeah, we're trying to encourage you guys. We want to encourage you guys to tap in. And I think that we are in a period of momentum. Unfortunately, folks really show up when there's a lot of chaos and strife. It's okay. It's to be expected. But stay positive. And one quick thing before we get into the principles, and then Derrick and I are going to teach a couple things, and then we're going to open up the floor. I just really want to encourage people, because a lot of the stuff that we do, Derrick and myself, right? Derrick's thing is the conscious resistance. There's an element of activism in the physical world, but there's also a spiritual element. Let's become better versions of ourselves. I'm on that same wavelength. And it's like the people, if you're complaining about there's nobody in my area and nothing's happening, chances are you might be attracting that. Whereas if instead you're like, there's nobody in my area, nothing's happened, but I'm going to take responsibility for making something happen. And I'm going to become the type of person that attracts other doers and builders, right? It's an inside job. So if you're struggling to find people, or if people are coming to meetings and then they're bouncing out, I just want to encourage people to lead by example. Like the classic Kevin Costner movie, if you build it, they will come. If you start doing cool shit, if you build a community garden in the neighborhood, if you have some land, or if you got a cool project going on in your backyard or whatever, if you're a vibrant person that's enjoyable to be around, then you're going to attract more people. When they show up to a meeting or whatever, they're going to want to stick around and come back again. But if you're, woe is me, this is so hard, why isn't anybody showing up? I just can't believe the government's doing all this to us, and you're like radiating this victimhood energy, then people are going to be like, that ain't any fun. And that's kind of dark and really, frankly, kind of depressing. But if you're all high on life and you're living your best life, and you're like, what can I do to use these opportunities and these challenges that we're all facing with the government and the economy and war and technocracy, and sometimes it's hard to make ends meet with all the inflation. If you're like, I'm going to take this as an opportunity to grow as a person and recognize that we are put here for a reason. And everyone on this call is here for a reason. You could be elsewhere. So I want to thank you first and foremost for spending your time with us, because this is really important work that we're all doing together. This is a movement that gets co-created. It ain't Derrick and I, it ain't the guy that's organizing the meeting. It's each and every one of us playing our role. There's any number of things that you could be doing, but you're here. You're here for a reason, right? You were attracted to this network, to this message. And I just really want to encourage you guys to embody the principles that we convey through the network and help us take this to the next level. Let's break down these principles. And
John,
then,
can I add one thing real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
Just want to throw, just to let everybody know, for those, first of all, thanks to everybody who's watching on Odyssey and YouTube and elsewhere, but to the 250 people watching through the webinar, I did launch a poll, and it's just asking who's already on freedomcells.org. You got three options: I am not, or I'm signing up today. Let's try to get more people on the list of I'm signing up today if you're not on there. And maybe this could be the beginning of kind of rejuvenating freedomcells.org, getting some more energy in there, or, starting, again, whether you use on other platforms. We created the website just to be a simple way to sign up and use the maps, and we'll talk more about that. But regardless of whatever platform you use, the goal is we're just trying to encourage you guys to get connected locally. And so wherever you do it, take action there. And then I just wanted to show this comment real quick. It is always helpful to be positive when you're trying to create something or start something, says Laura. And I thought that was a comment worth sharing. But yeah, that's it.
Let's go. Yeah, remember the platforms, like the website, it's just a means of connecting with people. It's not like the website's going to change the world and all this stuff. I will say, though, if you come across any bugs or like this function doesn't work, or I clicked on this link and it didn't work, email us at support@freedomcells.org, support@freedomcells.org. It is a labor of love, guys. It's not monetized in any way. It's just something that Derrick and I, over the years, and others have just given energy and support and resources to maintain for you guys to be able to connect. So don't give us a hard time, but don't hesitate to reach out and let us know if there's any issues. We'll try to get those resolved as quick as possible. But it's a grassroots movement, but the site works and the main functions are definitely up and running. Okay, Derrick, let's tag team these principles. Okay, so I'll let you start here. Let me share the screen, and then we're going to do some teaching here. We'll try to save as much time as we can for the Q&A. Okay, so there's 5 Freedom Cell principles. It's an open source movement. You can take the ball and run with it. You can start groups. You can host meetings. You don't have to ask permission from anyone because it's completely decentralized, which just so happens to be the first principle. Derrick, what's this one all about?
So decentralization, the Freedom Cell Network is decentralized, horizontally organized, and operates through voluntary association. No one person or group has authority over the other. And just to kind of elaborate on that, what I do in Houston, Texas, or in Morelia, Mexico, is going to be inherently different from what you do in Tallahassee, Florida, or in Rome, Italy, or wherever else you might be, in Canada, Montreal, et cetera, right? We have different backgrounds, different environments. We have different local issues that maybe, you're focused on, different interests in general, right? A group of people coming together in Houston, Texas, might be completely different from the group getting together in Montreal. We might have our focus different, right? Our group might be highly focused on permaculture, for example, and you might be more focused on, encryption and encrypted communication, things like that. Or maybe you do all of it. The point is that each Freedom Cell is intended to be different and unique on its own. As John said a moment ago, we've kind of been leading the charge over the years. We helped build the website. We're constantly trying to improve that just as sort of a base of operations. But the real Freedom Cell Network is all of you, everybody out there existing who, whatever you're doing, whether you're in the US or you're around the world, if you're organizing on the local level, you're trying to get together with like-minded people, and you're thinking about solutions, and you're thinking about exit and build, opting out of systems, building new systems, then you're a part of the Freedom Cell Network, right? Even if you don't call your group a Freedom Cell, there's some people who call theirs the Idaho Circle, or the Hive, or the Hub, or whatever name you come up with, or even if you don't have a name, it doesn't really matter. That's the beauty of decentralization, that each group, each cell, each pod is not intended to be exactly the same. It's not intended to look the same, to act the same, to have the same goals. The only thing that really unites all of us are these principles that we're going over here today. Is like, if we can all come together with these shared principles, then in that, beyond that, we have this beautiful diversity that I think is really what makes the network powerful.
Yeah, there's actually somebody in Central Texas that had a Freedom Cell group, and I guess I really triggered them. I don't know what I could trigger anyone about. I'm just kidding. But they changed it from Freedom Cell to like Freedom Circle. By all means, it's just about getting together in real life and connecting with other people. And on that regard, it's local. This movement is hyper local. It's an international network, which is awesome. But the magic and the most important part is at the local level, where people in your local area, whether it's a city, whether it's a region, whether it's even a neighborhood, you guys get together and build relationships and work together towards common goals. All right. So the network is decentralized. No group has authority over other groups. It's all unique groups doing cool things. And it's really hyper focused on being local, down to the as close as possible. Do you want to share about solutions focus?
All right. This, I think, is one of my favorite and one of the most important ones, because as I was kind of alluding to a moment ago, you can get together in different activist groups, and especially on the internet, and people want to talk about the conspiracy of the day or debate COVID, or if we're going to go to war, or is Trump a good guy, or whatever. And there's a time and a place for that, right? There's millions of places on the internet where you can do that. There's regular social media, there's forums. Obviously, you can argue with people in person if you like. But Freedom Cells is not that place. Whether we're talking about our website, freedomcells.org, where we will specifically, if we catch wind of it, we're not constantly monitoring the website. So I'm sure there's probably some things that we wouldn't want on there. But we do specifically look, like if people are posting about politics and posting about the conspiracies or whatever, we'll kindly say, hey guys, just a reminder, this is not the place for that. And sometimes people are kind enough to say, thanks for reminding me. I kind of forgot. That's not what Freedom Cells is about. I'll post this in another place. And kind of get them back on track. Focus on solutions. As it says here, our mantra is assume everyone knows the problems, focus on the solutions. We only have a limited amount of time and energy. Let's use that time to take action. Some people get really triggered by this. When we try to moderate the groups, they call myself or John or anybody out there who's moderated a group and tried to say, hey, Freedom Cells is intended to be focused. Like we have a big Freedom Cells UK group. There's a Freedom Cells Denmark group on Telegram and others. And, sometimes we make this suggestion, say, hey, we don't want to tell you guys what to do. Ultimately, do what you want. But just a reminder, Freedom Cells isn't supposed to be a place where you're sharing. Because what I've noticed this, and I know you see this too, John, and I can't fully fault them because this is something I did early on in my attempts to reach people, is you'll have somebody who maybe they made a video or they're watching a video they think is really important, and they'll share it in like 100 groups, any group that they're in. They just start dropping it, even if it's not relevant, has nothing to do with it. And in one vein, I think they think they're helping. They're like, I'm just trying to get this in front of as many people as possible. And maybe it does reach a few people, but that's not what Freedom Cells is intended to be. We've seen this, especially online over the years, where a lot of groups just end up becoming dumping grounds for just news. And then what happens is everybody stops paying attention, and then it loses its purpose. But instead, what we try to do on the main Freedom Cell group, which John just posted on the webinar for those who are on here, there's a main Telegram group for Freedom Cells just to pop in and say, hey, this is where I'm from. And then we usually try to direct people and say, hey, go check out this group. There's a main Mexico group, Canada group, etc. And some of these might need to be remade. I know the Canadian group, I think, is kind of fallen out of favor. It doesn't seem like it's being moderated very much. If anybody's here and you're on that, let's get that going again. But the point is, the meetings, the in-person, face-to-face, and the online groups are all intended to be solutions focused. Again, assume everyone knows the problems, focus on the solutions. So if you're thinking of sharing something, or you're thinking of starting a debate topic at the Freedom Cells meeting, ask yourself, is this a problem or is this a solution? And not to say we're going to totally ignore the problems, but let's say you're like, hey guys, I'm concerned about the militarization of the police, or I'm concerned about Palantir and the rise of tech surveillance. Also kind of turn that conversation from just complaining, oh, well, what are we going to do about the crazy digital IDs, to what are we going to do about digital IDs, guys? We have a Freedom Cell here. Can we start coming up with plans? How do you guys plan to handle this, right? Turn that reactive stance of, oh my God, there's this scary thing happening, to how do we handle this? How are we going to approach it as a community, as a group, as a cell, as a pod?
Excellent. Okay, good stuff. Good stuff. Yep. Stay solutions focused, everybody. All right. The next principle to hit, and again, if we're moderating a group, Derrick and I, we maintain these principles and we act as moderators. And if folks aren't in alignment with these principles and they're stumping for a political campaign or whatever, or they're trying to organize for something that's thousands of miles away, we'll let them know. And so we want to encourage people not to get triggered by that. We're trying to create a container that's unique to other places, that's entirely solutions focused, which I think is really special. Okay, the next thing is we're nonviolent, right? We want to create a free world where all relationships are voluntary. And the quickest way to derail that is to start calling for the initiation of violence. So that's a big telltale sign of an infiltrator as well. But it's also a telltale sign of somebody that needs to get more heart-centered and take a chill pill, really, at the end of the day. So we're nonviolent. We're peaceful resistance, satyagraha, like Gandhi, right? That being said, if we don't have any problem with anybody defending themselves or anything like that, but it's not a place to organize militia groups or to get all gung-ho about taking anything down or destroying anything. We're not destroyers, we're builders. Okay, so nonviolent, really important thing, especially as this group grows in prominence and the impact that we have in the world. You can probably expect that there's going to be infiltrators. Just be aware, nonviolent, 100%.
All right. I just want to make a note. I see there was a comment about the Canadian group. Just to make it clear, what I was saying is like we sometimes have nationwide groups. So you got a Mexico group, and then within that, people have links to more regional groups. Same thing with Canada. It's not intended to be like a one size fits all, but that's a good place to start if you are in Canada. All right. The other thing, and I kind of alluded to this already, is that we are apolitical. The Freedom Cell Network is focused on building, not voting, not lobbying, not politicking. Politics is not the solution to our current problems, and we are not waiting around for politicians to make the world a better place. That one cannot be repeated enough. And it kind of goes back to with the solutions focused, because again, we see this every cycle. A lot of you guys out there were very much into freedom cells and parallel networks and exit and build during COVID times. Then all of a sudden 2020 rolled around and 2024 rolled around, and a bunch of people are ready to go vote again, thinking that that's going to fix things. But here at the Freedom Cell Network, we are apolitical. So even if you want to go do voting outside or, run for office, that's fine. But the Freedom Cell Network and our websites and Telegram groups aren't the place to promote that.
Yep, and to reiterate, you can still do politics if that suits your fancy. Although I think it's a mark of a disempowered person to abrogate the responsibility for bringing about freedom and change in this world. But no judgment, whatever. If you guys want to do it, by all means, go do it out, but not in the Freedom Cell container. It doesn't mean that you have to abandon politics or you're a bad person if you do politics. It just means not in this Freedom Cell space. Okay, so those are the principles. We really want to encourage you guys to follow those principles. And we've shared, it's a network. You get out of the network what you put in. I always joke around, ask not what the Freedom Cell Network can do for you, but what you can do for the Freedom Cell Network. So we shared the website, freedomcells.org. Some folks were reporting that's going a little slow, so I'm going to have the tech team take a look at that. We also shared the Global Freedom Cell Telegram group, which is a great place to go in and tap in and get connected with the network. There's a Freedom Cell directory link I just shared as well. I'm going to highlight that. That has a list of a bunch of the different local national groups as well. Now, again, some of these groups are dormant. If they're dormant, maybe we could try to find the admin and you could become an admin. Also, if there's a group like, some whatever, Alberta, Canada, we're picking on Canada, or UK or whatever, and you're like, the group, all they ever do is just talk about politics. You can go in there and try to be like, hey guys, that's not what Freedom Cell's about. But if the moderator or the guy that created the group is like, this is what we're doing, we really have no control over that. And that's okay. Start an alternative group, call it something just slightly different, and then you be somebody that leads by example, and you'll attract the right people to that group. Okay, so there's no reason to get into a hissy fit because my city's already claimed by this thing and they're not really doing freedom cells. Just start another group. It's all good. At the end of the day, these groups and the website are only serving the purpose of finding the others. And where the real magic happens is meeting up in real life, The pendulum's swinging back towards that with all the AI and the Zoom and get behind the computer lockdown stuff at COVID. We're helping to push the momentum back towards getting together for in-person events, working in the garden together, raising the kids together, you name it. Okay, unless you have anything to add in general, you want to share?
Just super brief to that, because I've heard people say this to me as well. They're like, well, we started a freedom cell in our area and then some, a-hole took it over and then, he's super egotistical. And I'm going to talk more about this later, but just specifically on the piece you were talking about, it's okay, guys, if there's more than one group in an area, right? Especially if somebody's doing it and you're like, they're not really doing it in line with the principles. And of course, please do start a new group and try to stick to those values that we just discussed. But even if it's just somebody is maybe just not a personality that, is you're driving with, everybody doesn't necessarily have to get along, especially like I'm in Houston. I mean, there's like 5 million people in the greater Houston area. There's room for more than one group, right? And especially if you take different approaches, it would be great though, even if you had, say, multiple groups in one area, that y'all could still come together and collaborate. But if that doesn't always work out, it's okay if there's more than one group in an area.
Yep. Okay, Derrick, you have something to present. I'll let you take it away. I guess if we both just do a quick 15 or so, we should be good for the Q&A.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, I don't really have a presentation here, but I'll just share some thoughts. And because this is what I'm going to talk about today is sociocracy. And for those who are unfamiliar with sociocracy, I'm going to drop a link right here. One of the places you can learn about it, kind of like with the Freedom Cell Network, sociocracy is a decentralized concept. So I just shared the link for sociocracyforall.org. That's sociocracy, FORALL.org. That's one organization that teaches sociocracy that we've been working with recently with the Conscious Agora Eco Village as we develop and put into practice our decision-making processes. But I wanted to say about Freedom Cells specifically is one of the issues I've noticed is that people start getting organized. They use the website or they use Telegram and they find their 5 to 10 people or maybe more than that, and they start meeting up. I always suggest on those first meetings while you're getting to know each other to really just go around the room and, hey, what is everybody interested in, right? And you start to see what are the common themes. And then from there, you can start to set goals like, okay, well, we're all interested in, getting off Microsoft and Apple. How about we make it a goal to switch over to Linux in the next 2 months or something like that? And then you guys organize a meetup where somebody's teaching people how to do that. Things like that, right? So you're setting your goals, you're accomplishing these goals. That's the ideal version of Freedom Cells in my mind. And we talk about on the website about the value of group sizes of 8 to 10, and you can learn more about that on the website. But also don't get caught up on that. But what I'll notice often is that people will get to that point, they start organizing, they start meeting up. And some groups can kind of like work with spontaneous order and they don't need a lot of, central planning or management, and things just happen naturally. Of course, there's always going to be somebody who's kind of like leading the charge. I do encourage you to rotate that. So it's not just me hosting the meeting every time. Instead, you say, hey, how about Sally, you take a turn leading the meeting this week, and we just go around and, whatever your agenda is, whatever you're working on. But some groups I've met that they feel like there's a lack of organization. They're like, okay, we get Freedom Cells, we get coming together, we're apolitical, we're solutions focused, we're localized, we're decentralized, we're apolitical, all this stuff, and we're meeting up, but they just, for whatever reason, they don't have much cohesion. Either there's not, multiple people kind of giving things shape, and so the meetings just turn into, as I said earlier, just talking for a couple of hours, and that feels good. But then at the end of the meeting, everybody's like, well, we didn't accomplish anything. Is this what Freedom Cells is? I'm not going to come back next month, So for the people who are looking for more organization, or for the groups who are starting to get to the point where you're a little more advanced, again, this might not apply in the very beginning if you're just meeting up and hanging out and talking, getting to know each other. But as you get more organized and as your groups grow, you do want to do your best to keep it from being one single personality that's in charge. When I was leading meetings, I often led the meetings every month, not necessarily by choice. I was happy to pass it off to somebody else, but I'm kind of just a doer. So if nobody's doing anything, I'm going to step up and just start doing things. And so that's just my personality. Sometimes strong personalities like that will take charge, and that can be good, it can be bad, right? Somebody can take charge and things can get done and everybody steps in where they want and we all show our strengths. Other times somebody has maybe more of an ego about it and they kind of take control, not just lead and guide, but they take control. And then it's about what they want to do, and everybody else deal with it or leave. We want to avoid that. And sociocracy is one of these ways to do that. So if you are interested in organizing your Freedom Cell from being a group of 8 to 10 or 15 or 20 people that meet up and actually having a little bit more structure, I want to encourage you guys to check out sociocracy. So sociocracy, if we look at these two words, social is obviously interaction with society, with each other. Ocracy, democracy, rule by the people, vote of the people, these sorts of things. So sociocracy, the idea is to kind of make it a bit more decentralized. This is why I think it works perfectly with what we're doing. Make it more equitable, you could say, egalitarian, but in a way that is natural, I think. So instead of it being one central ruler, one monarchy, or we're all voting by, majority rule, which I think many of us realize, in democracy that it's actually a limited thing. Some of us see it as mob rule, 51% telling the 49% what to do. Sociocracy tries to avoid some of those pitfalls, and they also try to avoid the pitfalls of consensus. So for those who are familiar with decision-making as consensus, like let's say you have an activist group or a business or church or whatever, if you were voting by consensus, you go around and you basically just go around and around until people are all on the same page, until everybody has like an agreement and there's no objections. This can be useful for some people, and some people swear by it and use it, and it's been common in activist groups for decades. But it can also end up being very long, drawn out, exhausting meetings. And again, leading to people just deciding not to come because, hey, this is no longer fun. It feels too like just kind of static and it doesn't feel free flowing. And maybe some of you will feel that way about sociocracy too after I explain it. That's fine. If your meetings kind of have a natural flow to them, then maybe it's not necessary. But I have met many people who've come to me and said, look, Freedom Cells is great. I'm meeting people, but there's no organization. We're not getting anything done. And again, it's going to depend on the personalities and the people that are around. So rather than doing consensus, which is like trying to get everybody on the exact same page, and rather than doing majority rule, which is, if we outnumber you, we win, you got to deal with it either way, or just having one person deciding everything, sociocracy tries to bring everybody's voices in, sort of with consensus, and hear from everybody. But instead of making it where we have to be on the exact same page, they often talk about, or at least the way I've learned it, about a zone of consent. So let's say that your Freedom Cell is trying to make a decision about what the next goal you guys want to focus on, or the next topic, and you have 3 goals or 3 topics. There's a lot of people interested in permaculture and talking about growing food. There's a lot of people interested in getting off big tech and focusing on that. And then you've also got some people who think maybe you should focus on outreach and going out and passing out flyers and putting up posters and promoting your local Freedom Cell so you can get more people coming in. And rather than just picking one at random, you decide to use sociocracy. So in a sociocratic situation, let's say that my ideal situation is to say, I believe that we need to do more marketing, more promotion. We need to hit the streets and keep telling people about Freedom Cells. I think we should do that before we start focusing on other goals. And that's my ideal situation. So you kind of put that right in the center. Ideal, perfect scenario for me. But then even within that, imagine like a circle around that ideal situation of marketing and promotion. There are other things that I could live with, right? That is called our zone of consent. Now, outside of that circle, there's things that I can't live with. Like, let's say people say, well, the Freedom Cell should focus on organizing a violent protest, right? Something that goes against all of our principles. Well, that's out of my zone of consent. Guys, if you choose to do that, that's no longer a Freedom Cell and I'm out of here. I'm going to leave, right? But within that zone of consent, though my ideal situation is marketing, I could probably live with us focusing on permaculture. It's not my favorite, but I'm not going to leave the group over it. And I could also live with us focusing on getting off big tech. I probably need to learn a little bit about that. It's not my first choice, but if we choose that, I'm not going to leave. I'll still show up, right? That's just a very small taste of how you start thinking in terms of sociocracy, like not just trying to make sure everybody is 100% on the same page of everything, because it's okay to not be on the same page, but can you live with it is sort of like a question to ask. And again, as I said, this won't always be necessary. Sometimes decisions will just be made naturally and you don't even need to worry about it. But sometimes sociocracy can be helpful to do that. And one of the other ways I think sociocracy really lines up with Freedom Cells is the fact that they use what they call circles. And some people in the Freedom Cell movement have called their groups circles, pods, hubs, hives, cells, whatever name you use. But in sociocracy, they talk about circles. And I'm going to get a little bit into the weeds here just to kind of explain this overlap. Like I said, if this is overwhelming, then maybe this is, it's irrelevant right now. Your group is just starting. You're focused now on just recruiting people. Don't even worry about it. But for those of you who have been at this for a while or have tried before and you felt like, yeah, it wasn't very organized, maybe sociocracy is one way that you could approach it. And as you get more people involved, then you say, hey guys, let's try out this sociocracy thing to make decisions when necessary. So I'm not the only one making decisions, or it's not just this other strong personality making all the decisions. So let's imagine our group grew to 15 people, 10 to 15 people. And we're meeting regularly. We've got goals set. We're really we're kicking ass, right? And we start to realize that, as I said in the last example, there's a good chunk of the people who are focused on permaculture and growing food. We're all interested in learning about it, but there's at least 3-4 people who are like, that's their jam, and that's where they really want to focus on. And at the same time, there's also another handful of people who are very, very much about getting off big tech. These are the people who can switch everybody's phones over to Graphene OS and de-Google the phones and help you get your laptops and computers on to Linux and things like that. So you end up with a couple of pockets there of people who are focused in kind of specialty areas. In sociocracy, you would call that a circle, right? So maybe you have a permaculture circle, and that has a few people in it, and then you've got a get off big tech circle, and that has a few people in it. But there's also the larger circle, which is just your freedom cell that everybody's a part of, right? So it's a way to kind of start to get a little bit more specialized. And so let's say that on your online groups, you have a Telegram group or whatever other platform you use. You have the main group, so you have your Houston Freedom Cell, but that you can create topics for permaculture, for getting off big tech, for whatever other goals you have. And in those different topics, the permaculture circle, using sociocratic terms, could meet that, and they could discuss there regularly. Hey guys, we're working on an idea. We're going to put together a community garden day, and we want everybody in the Freedom Cell to come out, right? So it's still something that everybody can participate in, but it's the specific circle would work on it. Now, again, when we're kind of loose activist groups, it's a little bit different. Like, we're using sociocracy for being on land with community who we plan to live with. And so we're going to be making decisions that impact each other. It might not always be completely necessary to follow every step of sociocracy, but I think that general idea of using freedom cells as circles, even within our broader cell, because not everybody's going to be interested in every topic. But let's say that the permaculture circle puts together an idea, and then at your monthly freedom cell meeting, I say, hey guys, I'm Derrick. I'm here representing our permaculture circle within the broader freedom cell, and we have an idea we want to put out. We're proposing that this month we go to this local community farm we found. They're going to teach us all kinds of things. We're going to get to go home with fresh food and pick some eggs and do whatever. They got a whole day planned, and this is being organized by the permaculture circle within the broader freedom cell. And they can bring that together as a proposal and say, how does everybody feel about that? And maybe there's not many opinions, or people are like, hey, you know what, I like that, but it's not a good weekend for me. Can we consider another weekend? Or that's great, I love it, I can bring these things, I can help out in this way, right? And so the idea gets brought to the group, and then the group as a whole can decide if that's what they want to do. And then even, let's say the group as a whole didn't want to do it, that doesn't mean that some people in the group can't go do it on their own. But in general, I think sociocracy can be a tool for those who do want to have a little bit of that structure. Again, I will recommend checking out sociocracyforall.org. And Sociocracy for All, I'll just read the homepage. It says, they're a nonprofit that helps organizations, communities, workplaces, and collectives learn how to organize in a decentralized way and make their decisions with equity, efficiency, empowerment, trust, and transparency using sociocracy methods. Now, there are a lot of free videos you can find on their website and just on the internet in general. But if you ever get to a point in your group or even outside of Freedom Cells that you want to learn more about that, they do offer trainings that you can do. We did one before that was like a 2-hour kind of intro. And then we've done now with the Conscious Agora, we did a 6-hour training for 2 Saturdays in a row, 2 Sundays in a row. We did 3 hours and 3 hours where one of their instructors taught us the basics, and then we got to go through the exercises together and practice them and how do we make decisions. And now we're starting to use this within our group to make decisions about our community, our land, on the land. But as I said, even if you're not living on the land, I think this is just another tool for those who want to get organized. If it doesn't apply to you, then don't overcomplicate it. And I don't mean to overcomplicate things. If this seems like overwhelming and you're like, Derrick, I'm just trying to meet people right now, I'm not at that point. That's great. Set it aside for now and check out what John has to say.
All right. Thanks, Derrick. Good content, good information. Yeah. And Derrick and I are always trying to be conscious of, like, if people are coming into this at different places. Some people have had a Freedom Cell group for years now, and they're looking for some more intermediate advanced strategies and tactics to take their group to the next level, organizationally effective, getting stuff done. Some people are like, man, I just woke up recently. I guess people are waking up all the time now. Like, I just woke up because I realized Trump was lying to us about being a peace president or whatever. A lot of people woke up during COVID, but at the end of the day, we're just really trying to bring people into the community and then getting them to connect with one another. So I'll make my piece here brief so we can get to the Q&A. I should have shared this earlier, but I want to invite you, if you have a question or a comment to share, there's a Q&A only section. So there's a chat. Keep chatting it up. We're keeping an eye on the chat. We're dropping links in the chat. And then there's a separate Q&A only section. We're going to open up for questions and we'll hit those. We also want to invite folks, if you have a Freedom Cell group, if you got any victories or anything, you can actually raise the hand to speak. So we'll call on you, and I want you guys to be ready, and then try to be brief, because we're going to try to get through as many of the questions as we can. But let me share a little piece here about the Trinity model. But before I do that, I just want to give folks a word of encouragement. And one thing, I've just been hyper focused on self-development and spiritual growth in the past few months. It's been pretty intense, actually. And if you're somebody that is not satisfied in life, if you're feeling downtrodden, depressed, frustrated, if you're letting your emotions get the best of you, or if you're somebody that's like, yeah, I feel content and satisfied and things are actually clicking for me lately, just want to encourage you to try to see things in life, especially adversity, as a spiritual practice or self-development, if you want to be secular about it. There's so much opportunity for growth around us. And on the one hand, in order to prepare for what's to come, I strongly believe that things are going to get a lot worse before they get better. And in order to be better prepared for that, it's important that we're like very rooted and grounded and balanced, aligned with our divine purpose or our definite purpose. And then on top of that, if we are to be successful in coming together in these groups, it's inevitable that conflict is going to arise. And the important thing is that we remain embodied, balanced, compassionate about other people, so that conflict doesn't descend into drama. Conflict is inevitable. We grew up in a trauma-based society. We were raised by parents who maybe experienced war, or their parents were in World War II or whatever. And a lot of people just never really learned to relate to their emotions. And they project their own trauma onto their children, and it's an intergenerational trauma train. That's kind of weird, man. But it doesn't have to be like that. And we have the opportunity to diverge from that. But I guarantee you, as you start to mix it up with other people, if you haven't done that work internally, then you very well may be the person that's causing problems. If you have done the work, not only are you not the one causing any issues and drama and conflict, but you can actually be somebody that shows up to help resolve that stuff. All right, now I'll be the first one to tell you, I've been doing activism and organizing and community stuff for a very long time. And we had a community of 3 households, and the community just recently, a few months ago, like collapsed in on itself, like building 7. Went down a blaze of glory. And it wasn't the fuel that was inside of the building at all. It was a controlled demolition, I guess, because all of us hadn't done the work, and we got triggered by each other, and we let that triggering ultimately sow the seeds of destruction in the group, as opposed to being grateful that the people that have been attracted into our lives are actually a mirror. They're a mirror for us to see what's really going on inside of us, and an opportunity for growth. So I just want to start by sharing that. If you are to really lean into this work and the Freedom Cell Network, which is all about connecting with other human beings, you can just expect that there is going to be conflict that arises. But if you've tuned yourself to a frequency of growth, if you believe, like Napoleon Hill said, within every adversity lies the seed of an equal or greater benefit, or like the Apostle Paul said, We rejoice in our suffering because suffering produces endurance, and endurance builds character, and that character leads to hope, right? It's this long tradition of struggle leading to improvement and betterment, but only if you let it. You see, because it could break you or it could build you, and the choice is yours as to what path you go down. So I just want to encourage people to be beacons of light, positivity, hope, heart-centered love as we enter this work, not only because there's external dark forces that are at play, and unfortunately these dark forces have captured massive institutions in this world that have so much power, and they're projecting all sorts of evil and negativity into the world. We don't have to go along with that. We most definitely don't need to align with that. Instead, we need to align with the divine, the beauty, the wonder, the magic, the harmony that is this human experience that we all are blessed to be a part of. And I want to encourage you not to feel afraid, not to feel frustrated that the government's doing this and technocracy and Trump betrayed us or whatever, but rather to say, wow, there's a reason why I was born into this time right now. I have something to offer to this world. I have the opportunity to leave the world a better place than what it was like when I inherited it. And I'm going to just dedicate my life to becoming the best version of myself, to cultivating the gifts that God has given me so I can show up not only for myself, for my family, and the community that I surround myself with, but I can play a role in creating a better world for the future generations that are yet to be born, because they are counting on us. They are counting on us, my friends. And this Freedom Cell Network thing that we created and that you're co-creating along with us is a vessel. It's a tool. It's an opportunity to bring the right people together. The remnant in biblical terms, the people that are going to pick up the pieces of society when it all collapses and comes crashing down and rebuild it. But we're not going to wait for it to crash down, because we're done with their predatory, corrupt, crooked, broken system. We're done. We're done. We still might have some entanglements that we're trying to weave away from, but we're done with it. And it's clear what our mission is. If you're on this call, you're part of the mission. The mission is to build the new earth, to create heaven on earth. If you're Christian, to create a world that's in alignment with our values as free, powerful, beautiful human beings, as the one and only Derrick Broze likes to say. And so I want to thank you again for being here, and just recognize that what we're doing ain't about self-preservation or creating more freedom for ourselves. It's much bigger than that. All right. Okay. And there's a great way to bridge, again, the old way. We're entangled. We're tied up in the system. There's this path to break free of that. Right. So agorism, counter economics, that's the core of what we're doing. But sometimes when we're doing stuff under the table, it's a little bit challenging to steward resources, to pool money together. Who's going to have it? What if we want to take some credit card donations? What if we want to have a Bitcoin wallet or whatever, right? You got to trust this guy to do it or that guy to do it, whatever it may be. Well, there's tools and frameworks that we can leverage in order to have that foundation that can steward resources, steward land, steward a piece of property or like a building that we all meet at, or pool resources to host a big event, right? It's called the Trinity model. I learned about this framework from Bradley Logan. He's the divine law guy. Now let's give you a quick overview. We put together a webinar where we break it all down. Free webinar, livefree.academy/Trinity is the website. livefree.academy/Trinity. You can sign up today and check that out. But essentially it's these three pieces. And I came to realize that this framework fits perfectly for established freedom cell groups that are looking to have a little bit more structure and that are wanting to stay in the free world, which we call the private realm. So you have the public realm, man-made law, statutes, LLCs, nonprofits, 501c3s, following the man's rules, Rome's rules. And then you have the private realm, which is God's law, divine law, natural law, whatever you want to call it. That's people cooperating freely and voluntarily together. Well, there's actually these pieces, these structures that can be used to go from this to that. Okay, so there's three pieces. The first piece is a non-statutory trust. It's basically a private trust where people come together. There's a benefactor or a beneficiary. There's a beneficiary, there's a grantor, and there's trustees. The grantor is the guy or the person that creates the trust. And then there's trustees that manage the trust. And then there's a beneficiary that receives whatever benefits could come from the trust. The beneficiary could be the earth or the community or whatever. This is all in the private realm, but it's these trustees that essentially govern the trust, right? So when it comes to, we want to get together with our Freedom Cell group and we're ready actually to acquire some land. But then it's like, well, who holds the title to the land? And do we have to trust that person? Well, you guys could all come together as trustees of the trust, and the trust could hold title to the land and steward that land on behalf of the community, on behalf of the people, right? So that's one piece, a trust. You can actually open up a bank account with a non-statutory trust, no certificate of formation, no asking the government for permission, no going to the Secretary of State or the county clerk. I've done it myself. We have this model we put together with our Ministry of Nature. It's called Freedom Family Fellowship, right? So this is all stuff that people have done. I just did an interview right before this with the group doing it down the street from us called Cosmos Ranch. Okay, so you got a non-statutory trust. Then you have a private membership association. Now, you don't even have to do the trust. You could do just one of these pieces, but the private membership association is great for Freedom Cell groups too, because it allows the members to come together and have a formal agreement amongst themselves. If it's a Freedom Cell type group, ideally you embody those 5 principles, but you also lay out other things, okay? And so you have a board of directors that kind of organizes things, the organizing committee, the core Freedom Cell leadership team in your area or whatever. And then you have bylaws. The board creates bylaws. This is how we're going to run this membership association. And then the members come in and the members sign a private membership agreement. And that's like a social contract, essentially. And the beauty of this is that it gives you guys some structures and it lets you know how to expect to engage with one another. What happens if there's going to be conflict? We're all agreeing to not seek the court system should there be a dispute. Rather, we're going to use this preordained method of solving conflict. Maybe we're going to go to the group next door in the neighboring town. If we can't figure it out ourselves, we're going to go to them. But the cool thing is with the private membership association also, you can open a bank account with it. That bank account is managed by the board of directors. The board of directors can be chosen by a group of people that are the members. But again, like it's a bridge. So it's cool if you don't have a bank account, if you're pooling cash or if you're pooling crypto without any of this structure, by all means, that's really great. But if you wanted to pull in a little bit more money, or we're trying to raise money to buy that building downtown, and that's where we're going to do our organizing, and we're buying a 2-acre lot that just came available, and we're going to do a community garden there. These resources, these structures help you to bridge the gap. And then if the activities that you're doing are spiritual in nature, you can actually create a 508c1a faith-based organization that's exempt from income tax. So anytime money's coming in, right, if it's going into a bank account and that bank account's a company bank account or whatever, like I've helped to organize or I've paid people to manage the Freedom Cells website for the past couple years or so, year and a half or 2 years. But and the money's coming into my company, it's actually just money from me selling courses and stuff. But there's been times when people donated, right? But that's all part of my company, my LLC with the S Corp designation. And that company files a return every year, like an ass clown, right? I'm trying to work my way out of the system. But if you have the PMA and the PMA has this spiritual work, which all the work we're doing, you can see it as spiritual. I strongly believe it's all spiritual work. Now, all of a sudden, there's actually an exception to taxation. It's not a tax exemption where you got to ask permission to be exempt like you do with the 501c3. It's actually unlawful for you to be taxed as a church, a faith-based organization, a ministry of nature. So non-statutory trust stewards resources, private membership association organizes and puts into written agreements how people relate to one another. And a 508c1a serves as a protective spiritual blanket to avoid the taxation and the ire of the IRS should resources in the form of money start coming into your organization. You don't have to do this by any means to do a Freedom Cell group, but if you already have an established freedom group and you want to be able to have that structure that enables you to do A, B, and C, I'm going to invite you to check this work out. Again, we got a free webinar, livefree.academy/Trinity, livefree.academy/Trinity. Myself and my wife created this. We have a non-statutory trust, a PMA, a couple PMAs actually, and then a 508c1a faith-based organization designation. We have a bank account. We've received resources. We have a crypto wallet for our church. We're going to be doing some more Freedom Cell events here locally. We can raise money through the church and then spend the money to host the event. Really cool stuff. I hope you guys will check it out. I'll drop the link there in the chat. Okay, we're actually doing better on time here. Derrick, you want to come on back, buddy? I'm going to drop the link here. Do you have anything you want to add before we open up to Q&A?
Not really, other than just to say that I think that it's interesting, both the things that you and I wanted to cover today that we were just called to, might be for those who are a little further advanced in their freedom cells, or like, like already kind of, like you said, deciding to get land together, and mine was kind of in that direction. So for those who are just at the beginning, please don't be intimidated by the things we shared. If you're not at that point yet, that's okay. If you're literally just trying to find your group or trying to start your group, then that's perfect too. As you get further down the line, some of the things John just shared might be valuable to you. Some things about sociocracy might be valuable to you. If not, that's okay as well. Just focus on connecting with people locally, getting to know each other. And I do want to remind everybody again, please do, for those who are on the webinar jam, I will be checking Odyssey and the other platforms. But if you have a question, put it in the Q&A chat. Looks like we got a good amount there that we can go over. And as I said, I'll go over and check if you're watching on my YouTube. John, if you want to check your YouTube, I'll check my Odyssey. And if you guys got any other questions there. And then we did have the poll still going so far. 71% of people who are on this call, which is 200, there's been like 250 in here. 71% said they're already on freedomcells.org. 14% said they're not, and 14% said they're signing up today. So we're doing pretty good. But other than that, yeah, I'm excited. We're an hour into this, guys. We're thankful to everybody who is participating. The whole goal of us doing these calls, John started the idea of Freedom Cells back in 2015, and I jumped in shortly after that. We had an early version of the website, and then we launched the current website in 2019 with the help of Hakeem Anwar over at Above Phone. And it's just continued to grow. But in that time, we always would kind of do this periodic, let's check in around the world and see how everybody's doing. This is the 13th one, as you guys can see from the title today. We're going to try to do another one before the end of the year. And we honestly do these very inconsistently, just as we remember, but we're trying to get better at that, maybe doing these at least twice a year or every quarter if we can. And it's just a way for us to check in, especially for those of you who don't come necessarily to in-person events, or you can't make it to John's Exit and Build Summit or the People's Reset in Mexico. If you can, we would love to have you, because that's another great place to meet people. But for those who aren't able to do that, these virtual calls kind of get us all pumped up and rallied together, and realizing, hey, I'm not alone. There's other people out there working on these goals, and we're working together. So that's what gets me excited about this.
Let's roll. Okay, let's hit up the Q&A. Derrick, I'm going to end the poll so we can launch another one. So the final numbers, 69% say I'm in the website. 14% I'm not. 15% I'm signing up today. It's free to sign up. It's organized by us, so it's not like some big tech platform. It's custom built on a WordPress website. So freedomcells.org is the website there. And I'll drop a new poll here in a second. Okay, let's hit the Q&A. The first one from Michael. Michael says, I'm in a rural township. I know the desired cell size is 8 people. So how big to cast that net? What if 40 people showed up? Multiple cells then? Right out the bat, just get people showing up in person. 40 people coming to a meeting would be like a huge success, by the way. But if it's 15, if it's 20, just have meetings, start talking about what this concept is. We're getting together to work on exit and build goals. What's important to us in our area. Maybe you go ahead and implement sociocracy off the bat to get off on the right footing. These guys want to do food. These guys want to do communication, whatever it may be. Just start getting stuff going before you get into the structure. But then as meetings happen, now you're like, wow, we got 25 to 40 people consistently showing up. Maybe we should try to see if some of the people are on the east part of town and others are in the north part of town and some are central. They could break off into smaller groups, but you still maintain that larger group where you meet maybe once every month, every 2 months. But the smaller groups start getting organized and getting more active together in person. There's actually a Freedom Cells manual. If you register on freedomcells.org, I'm not sure exactly what menu item it's on, but it'll be obvious. And we actually break down, what do I do if it's just me? What do I do if there's 2 of us? What do I do if there's 8 of us? What do I do if we have a big group? How can we break it down into the smaller groups? So again, the idea is like, we don't want to have some massive meetings with 100 people all the time, although that's great occasionally, right? That becomes a little bureaucratic and we don't all know each other. But we want to have that meeting still a little less often and really break down into smaller, tight-knit groups that form a larger group. So that's great. And I appreciate you guys asking questions about the structure. That's one of the unique characteristics of this network. We have this horizontal structure that'll expand and grow without taking on hierarchy. Really pretty cool and innovative. But as we always emphasize, what's most important is just start getting together at first and don't overthink it. Just get people together in real life. Okay. All right. We'll try to get through these. I know Derrick and I can both be wordy. So we got 2 wordy people together, but we'll try to get through as many of these as possible. Here's one. Anonymous asks, I'm on Freedom Cells. Are there more groups on Telegram than Freedom Cells? I'm not aware of Telegram or what the benefits of that platform are versus being on Freedom Cells. Can you please explain? You want to take that one, Derrick?
Yeah, so there are, I mean, I don't think it's hard to know on Telegram, right? Because obviously Telegram is kind of more decentralized and distributed than our website even. We know there's 42,000 people who've signed up at some point over the last 5 or 6 years on freedomcells.org. That doesn't mean there's 42,000 people active. And in that same way, there's a bunch of people who got really excited during COVID 1984 and created Telegram groups for their Freedom Cell. And as I was mentioning earlier, some of them kind of died down and nobody, uses them currently. But let me just take a look. Like in the main Freedom Cell group there, how many do we have in there, John?
2,500.
Let me see. There's like 2,500, yeah, there. So and that's just the main group, right? But then the whole purpose, like let's say for those of you, because I see some people commenting right now, like somebody who may be on this call right now just popped in and said, is anybody in South Africa? I saw earlier somebody saying, hey, is anybody from Canada? That can be useful, and we try to look for those people and direct you to the proper place. But there's also the Freedom Cell directory, which I think John shared the link to, and I'll share again in a moment. And that is, again, completely community sourced with the help of volunteers. But we do our best. So when somebody pops in and says, is anybody in Southern Italy, we search and do we have anybody in Italy? Okay, somebody did create a group in Italy. Here's the link. Now you might go to that link and it might be extremely popping and people are organizing and there's meetups coming and you get to connect with people and that's the best case scenario. But you might join the group and realize, wow, nobody's posted here in 2 years or 6 months, or it's filled up with spam. And that goes back to what we said earlier about creating your own Telegram group or your own group. If it's inactive, if it's dead, or if there's nothing there, create it.
Yeah, Telegram's a great app too. It's more freedom oriented than Facebook and Meta and all that stuff. It's not perfect. It's not private, but kind of see it as a public square. Don't say anything on Telegram that you don't want to be known by the man, but there's a lot of people using it. It's a great app. You can have it on your phone. You can have it on desktop as well. And a lot of people are connecting there, getting things started. Okay, so thanks for that question there, Anonymous. I want to invite you guys, if you want to click the speak button, I think it says speak. I'm going to go ahead and call up Sharon. She put her hand up 38 minutes ago. If you're still on, Sharon, we called you up. If we do bring you up to the floor, try to ask a question, be brief, or share some kind of victory or struggle, and we can hash that out. Okay. So let's see. Derrick, is your community in Morelia open to new members? How do we find out more about it?
We are open to more members. Right now, we're currently vetting a group of people, but for those who are interested, the best place is just theconsciousagora.com, and there's a little email form. Just fill that out. I will go ahead and preface this by saying we are specifically looking at this point for Spanish speakers. You don't have to be Mexican from Mexico, but you have to have a pretty good level of proficiency with Spanish at this point. We're not just taking anybody from just because you have money. And honestly, I'll just say that that's not the way our community operates either. We do have a buy-in price, but it's more about, do you get the principles? Do you get the values? So check those out. You can find them at theconsciousagora.com. And do you speak Spanish? That's an important part of any new members coming in.
Dang. Okay, let's go. Well, do you speak Spanish fluently, Derrick? Oh, okay. let me see. Tim says, any suggestions for operating in Mexico? For instance, we want to be careful not to be targeted as that crazy gringo group who are anarchists. Maybe we are perceived as anti-government and participating in politics could be grounds for deportation. We do have some Mexicans in the group. We're trying to invite them more. What do you think, Derrick?
I think having Mexicans involved is a great idea. My goal and my encouragement is always to be as integrated as possible. Our community we're building does have foreigners, Americans, Canadians, but we also are very integrated with our neighbors who are Mexicans born and raised in the mountain where our land is. There's a lot of people who are anti-government in Mexico, though, so I don't think you have to worry too much about that part there. I would, though, focus on the integration and the community building side. We can be anti-government and still also be positive and show people that we're not scary anti-government people out here to cause harm or anything like that. But I think integration is absolutely key, guys. And that's not just Mexico. If anybody's thinking of moving to a foreign country that is not your place of birth, get to know the language, get to know the people, stay as integrated as possible. I know we all have different lifestyle goals and things like that, but personally, I've never been interested in being in a little expat bubble where you don't speak the local language and you just stay in your own kind of area. And in times of difficulty, I think that's also detrimental too, because when times get hard, if you're not the neighbor who we know and we break bread with, you're just some foreigners that we've never spoken to. Things could be more difficult as opposed to being, beneficial and positive where you come together and support each other.
Good stuff. And the Mexican culture is just the bomb. The food, the family, the community, the pachangas and fiestas. It's a good time, good people, good place to be. There's no reason why you wouldn't want to integrate with the community. Speaking of technocracy, any groups focusing on solutions to the harmful technologies and EMFs, anyone starting an EMF aware community? I know of one. My good friend Mike Cobb at ECI Development, they actually have a community that is designed and built from the ground up as a EMF free community, low EMF, extremely low EMF. I'll pull up the link. Do you have anything you want to share there, Derrick?
I don't have any specific groups that I can think of off the top of my head. I wouldn't be surprised, though, if there's not some Freedom Cell related Telegram groups, because as we said earlier, people have started all kinds of subgroups, and some of them aren't even focused on specifically meeting, but on topics like that. The other thing I will just mention, just a shout out again to Hakeem, is takebackourtech.org is a great resource for people who are just interested in more knowledge on how to limit your exposure to EMFs.
Excellent. And this community's in Nicaragua. There's already people there. Mike Cobb's a great friend of mine, so definitely consider that. They have lots available. I just dropped the link there. Okay, so then let's hit up the next one. I'm interested in learning more about trust nonprofit structures to provide real estate privacy and tax benefits. Okay, Jim, yeah, livefree.academy/Trinity is the best way to tap into that. It's a free webinar where you'll get the basics. We can connect deeper later, livefree.academy/Trinity. Mankinder is inviting folks to connect with him. Mankinder is a huge proponent and supporter of our work and the Freedom Cell Network especially. So shout out to Michael Mankinder. He's doing events and organizing people too. He just shared his contact info. Michael, I don't know if you want to drop it again in the chat. And Derrick, if you catch that or I catch that, we'll highlight it there in the chat for people to connect. He's looking for folks that do social media marketing and sales. Let me go ahead and invite up Andrew and Krista. They both raised their hand a while ago. Grace, oh shit, I just hit reject. I accidentally hit reject, not accept, for those of you that just had your hand up. So please raise your hand again and we'll bring you back up. Let's go. Are greater reset events good for young children? Most definitely. You want to speak
Absolutely.
to the next one coming up? Did y'all land on the dates yet, Derrick?
We haven't announced the dates yet, guys. Stay tuned. We're going to announce the dates, but I'll tell you guys all here, it's going to be the last weekend of January, Wednesday through Sunday. So I don't know the dates off the top of my head, but you'll see that. Look it up, and we'll be announcing soon if you're on our email list. And absolutely, it is family friendly. And I can say this year's event, 2025, we put more effort into that. We had like a whole, we had like a kind of an art gallery. That was the first time we did that, but we also mixed that with the kids' children play area. So they had like art supplies and different things going on. Our great friend Lainey Liberty from the Project World Schooling, she was helping out with that. And we plan to do that again. And of course, obviously, depending on the age bracket you're talking about, we try to have stuff to entertain the younger ones. But the ones that are getting into their teens and early, young adults, we definitely encourage them to come participate and listen to the talks and learn and check out a workshop or host a workshop and get involved.
Excellent. Yep. It's getting more and more kid friendly every single year. The last year was great with actual organized events and activities for the kiddos. And the city and the area, I don't know if y'all are doing a different venue or anything, but Morelia is super safe and chill and very family friendly and oriented as well. Are there any groups in the Madhouse, Germany? I don't know what Madhouse is, but if anybody's in Germany, Oliver's checking in here. Oliver, make sure you join the website, join the Telegram groups. And
I did share a link to the Germany Telegram a moment ago. I don't know if it already disappeared. I'll post it again, but I don't know how active that is at the moment, but I'll drop that link in there for anybody who wants to check it out.
Sweet. And then for folks that are wanting to stay on top of the announcements and info about the Greater Reset, we send it out to the Freedom Cells email list as well if you're signed up on freedomcells.org. But there's a way to register for the Greater Reset People's Reset email list, thegreaterreset.org. Sign up there to be the first to know about the venue. And when Derrick always does like a early bird kind of vibe too. So get in on that early and you'll be able to save some money and also make that commitment to go to one heck of a transformational event. Is there an interactive map function for seeing existing Freedom Cell locations? Yes, you can search by members and you can also search by cells on the website, freedomcells.org. And again, guys, if you have any issues, don't hesitate to report them to support@freedomcells.org. I'm pretty sure that's the email address. It is support@freedomcells.org, support@freedomcells.org.
I just want to mention on that real quick, John, too, that has always been the key component of the website. Like if the website has a purpose, it's the maps. Like I said earlier, some people get bogged down in like using it like a Facebook and start posting statuses, and that's fine. You post what you want to, post your updates, post your progress reports of Freedom Cells. But the main thing, especially for those of you who are new and looking for people, is to create a profile, make it as detailed as possible. As John shared earlier, put an address on there. It doesn't have to be your home address, but just somewhere reasonably in the area you are so people can find you. And then you can search 5, 10, 20 miles and show you all the groups and all the people there. And just wanted to make a note that our web admin has been communicating, and he said he is going to jump on the website and checking the server speed issue, because we were seeing the comments from some of you guys out there saying it's going pretty slow. We understand that. Like I said, it's a labor of love. We're not getting paid to do this. If you want to donate to help run the cost, that's great. But stay tuned. We're working on it.
I think because there's obviously some new momentum going on. I know you were just on Corbett recently. I don't know if that was a spark, but the Freedom Cells Telegram group just started getting all chatty with lots of conversations, which is awesome to see. So I think that we should probably do like a fundraiser or something real quick, try to spin up a few $1,000 to help make sure everything's operating tip-top shape. So be on the look for that, guys. Okay, Mark Brody says, if Freedom Cells are apolitical, does that mean there can be no political structure within a Freedom Cell? How can we organize without some leadership structure or division of labor? That's not what it means. We just mean don't go posting or trying to don't post about politics. We should vote for this guy, sign this petition that's appealing to the parliament or whatever. Some people define politics as who gets what, when, where, and how. But if you want to have a structure, like, you guys can develop whatever structure you want. I strongly believe, like Derrick shared earlier, sociocracy is great. The idea is to keep things horizontal. But if the group wants to get together and be like, we want so-and-so to lead organizing this and that because so-and-so really has integrity and they're getting stuff done, then you guys can organize however you'd like. Just be aware that certain frameworks and structures can lead to an imbalance of power. And we're trying to keep things as horizontal and shared power as possible. But no, by all means, you can use structures and organizational tools. And, you don't want to do like a majority vote. I mean, you could do a majority vote if that's what you want to do. But then, some people may not be represented well if they're in the minority. That's why sociocracy, holacracy, stuff like that's really cool. You want to add to that, Derrick?
No, I think you covered it there. But yeah, and Echo said in the comments, you can have structure that's not political. So, I mean, it doesn't have to have any, you can still organize. It just has nothing to, just don't come in and start shilling your favorite political candidate.
Echo, echo, echo. Okay, Kelly says, is there a list of Freedom Cells that people can offer their services? I have tons of ideas, but would rather work with people from Freedom Cells who know how to operate outside the corrupt systems. Yeah, there's actually an Agora. I'm not sure if it's functioning well right now, but there's a way to list stuff on the website. We'll make sure that's working. But in the groups that I moderate, I have no problem with freedom-minded people that own businesses, especially if those businesses have services or goods that are helping people with freedom stuff. I have no problem with people promoting a business here or there. We don't want anybody to get spammy or anything. But yeah, just connect in the groups, post on the website, share in the Telegram group, and ideally connect with people in your local area too, and network and market your product or services face to face. That's the best way to do it. And that's really what it's all about.
Besides, so I just want to mention that the Agora John touched on that. I'm hoping that is running. If not, that's one of the first things we're going to work on, because when we relaunched the site, we were really excited to have that component. It's basically like the freedom classifieds, right? So you can post different services, and some of them might be local services, so it's not going to apply to people on the other side of the world. But still, it's a great place to put yourself out there if you're trying to find a job or if you have something to offer. But John, do you remember our buddy Mike Swaytex? He also had a website kind of dedicated to similar. Sure. What was it? Is like the
Agorist Marketplace.
Agorist Marketplace. Agorist.market. So we can put that one in there too. That's just another similar source for that.
There's also XMR Bazaar has a lot of good stuff. XMR Bazaar, and it's Monero oriented. Derrick and I know the guy behind it who does Monerotopia also. So I just dropped Agorist.market. And xmrbazaar.net, I believe. And if I put the website wrong, guys, if you'll just go figure out the right website and then drop it in the chat, and we'll highlight it also. Okay, let's continue on. Thanks everybody for being here. And there were people that raised their hand, and I accepted them. So I don't know if it's not pulling up. It should invite you up to the floor if it did accept you. All right, here's one from Kelly. Oh, that was Kelly's question we just answered. Is there any jobs opening the first half of fiscal year 2026 from October to a Finnish worker on H-2B visas? So here we have Maddie. I don't know, Maddie, in the chat, if you want to share your skills, use this as a networking opportunity here, guys. We got 209 people that are on live right now. So network with each other now, share info with each other. But Maddie, I would post that in the Freedom Cell groups. Make sure you share what your skills are and such and what you have to offer. Yeah, the community is all about helping folks connect in that regard. Here is Stace. What about documentation and templates used by different communities? How are you documenting your goals, objectives, actions, and outcomes? Is there some standard documentation templates that can be shared? That's a great question.
We don't have standard documentation because of what we said earlier about it being decentralized, but that doesn't mean groups can't share best practices. So if you're listening to this and you got a Freedom Cell that you feel has been highly successful, with the understanding that sometimes success can be for a period of time and then things kind of dip down and there's not too many people, please share that, because I tend to think that one of the best resources we have here, guys, is we've got 42,000 people on this website. There's at least 10,000 more people spread through Telegram and other apps, and probably hundreds of thousands out there, people who've heard of Freedom Cells and who are open-minded to the idea, or at least are just, some of them are already just doing it and they just don't talk about it on the internet. But our best resource is learning from each other. So if you do have practices and things that have worked for you, what I tend to recommend is what I shared earlier, that have your initial meetings, have some time to get to know each other, and just go around like, this is who I am at the first local meeting you have, and have everybody express like, what are your main focus right now? You're going to see that some people are more concerned about food, some are more concerned about maybe self-defense training, some want to know more about the tech side or other areas, but try to find those common ground areas and then see within those focuses, what kind of goals can you set for the next 30 days, for the next 6 months, for the next 1 year. And then really at that point, it's up to each of you guys to hold each other accountable. And to make that even more clear, the goal is that y'all are actually doing that. So in the beginning, taking some inspiration from some of the ideas John shared. The first Freedom Cell that I ever helped start, we started with a emergency bag or a bug out bag, if you will. And we literally went and bought like the same bag, or went to the Army surplus store and bought bags together, and then started figuring out what do we want to put in this bag? Okay, we want first aid kits, we want this thing. And the idea being that everybody is kind of on the same level playing field, right? So we all know that in rough times, if there's a hurricane that hits Houston, my Freedom Cell, we've all got the same bag with the same supplies, or at least similar supplies. We've all got some basic training in CPR. We have a meetup location, just different things like that. So the knowledge, you don't only want the group organizing to be decentralized, but you want the knowledge to be distributed amongst everybody. So it's not just John or Stace who has all the knowledge in the group and we all have to lean on her or him, but it's really that each of us have a bit of that knowledge and we can share and come together.
Excellent. Okay, looks like we have Michael that joined us. Michael, can you talk? Michael. There's Michael. There's Michael's hat. We can see Michael's hat and his shades. Michael, can you talk for us? See if it's working. Yo. All right. I'm going to eject you. That's the word it uses. Eject. I'm ejecting you, Michael. Are you there? Can you talk? All right. If you guys come up to the stage, make sure that you check. Hey.
We can see you. We can't hear you.
Yeah, it's pretty bad internet. All right, I got to boot you, Michael. Make sure you guys, if you come up to the stage, make sure you double check the audio and the video before you go. You'll have the opportunity to select your speaker and your microphone and all that stuff. Okay, great question there, Stace. Carmen, I guess there's a comment here. Carmen says, I experienced a drama rot community, too high density, and most of the drama was oriented around many petty organizational glitches, which could have been avoided. The operational aspect needs to be very well structured. Otherwise, everyone's bandwidth will be used up dealing with stupid drama. I want to encourage everyone to just have like a zero tolerance policy for drama. There's conflict. You know, the funny thing is my ex-wife actually shared this. We've had our share of drama, her and I, but we're healing the relationship. But she is in a community and she's like, well, the important thing, conflict's inevitable. The important thing is that it doesn't rise to the level of drama. That's why you gotta have systems in place. Like we're using nonviolent communication to solve disputes, and we're inviting people to give trainings on nonviolent communication, or we're doing sociocracy to make difficult decisions, and we're training on that. The more conscious you are, the more anticipatory, is that a word? The more you anticipate the conflict is going to happen, but you have systems and mechanisms in place to deal with it, the less likely for drama to arise. And if drama is like people are talking behind each other's back. One person obviously hasn't done the inner work and they're like all spun up and talking smack on somebody, and they don't want to self-reflect and take ownership of the role that they played in creating the conflict. Then somebody's got to step up and be like, hold on a moment. I want to honor where you're coming from, but this is out of alignment with our agreements that we have. We don't say stuff behind each other's back. We bring it to the group or whatever it looks like. But I've found the more that you do, the more busy you are crushing life and goals and stuff, the less room there is for that. So another thing is like, just focus on action, guys. And there ain't even room for that. And the people that want to spin up drama, they naturally get pushed out, or they're not attracted to your group because they can't get their rocks off by getting a rise out of everybody. So yeah, you want to add anything?
Yeah, I'll just add to that. I saw this great comment that Ginny, I think it says they need to go weed the garden together. That's a good way to work out conflict. But no, I do want to just go back to what I think somebody was asking, like about best practices and stuff like that. This is where it can be a little challenging, right? Because some people, like, to understand this, like COVID woke up a lot of people. That doesn't mean those people are all conscious, that they've done their shadow work, that they've worked on their trauma. It just means they're awake, they're afraid of things going on in the world, and hopefully they start looking for solutions. So it's important, just like when you're building a relationship or you're starting a community or whatever, that we're all coming from different backgrounds, different upbringings. Some of us have great communicational skills. Some of us have never learned to communicate, or maybe the way we communicated in our house was slamming doors, or just, we learned to be quiet and not communicate anything. So you have to remember that when you're just pulling from random people around your community and trying to find the like-minded people. Sure, we have like minds around freedom and, wanting to not be sucked into a technocratic transhumanist state, but that doesn't mean we have similar values in other ways. And so it's important to maybe put a little bit of energy into that, put some energy into doing the shadow work if you have interest in that. But I definitely think things like nonviolent communication, the actual book, Nonviolent Communication, and doing some practices out of that can be useful, as well as books like The Four Agreements. And this could be the beginning of your meetings, when you first start organizing. But I just want to stress that's going to turn some people off. And that's okay. Maybe those aren't the people you want to work with, because some people are just at the level where they're just alone and they want to find like-minded people. And if they show up to a meeting and it's the first time you're ever meeting and you're already talking about sociocracy structures and, having do shadow work, that could be overwhelming for some people. They might be like, whoa, am I joining a cult? I thought I was just trying to, meet some friends in my backyard. So try to take these things in stages. But yes, be prepared. There will be conflict. And that is, I mentioned this earlier, that is one of the number one things that I've heard. And what I've heard from most people, though, is it typically involves one person who is a toxic personality that destroys everything for a lot of people. And that's either somebody trying to control the entire meeting and make it be the way they want, and other people don't necessarily like that, and it drives them off. Actually, that's usually what it is. That's what I've heard from numerous people. I heard this, John, just a couple of weeks ago. I was in New Mexico. These people had a great success story. They found freedom cells through the COVID panic, and they found like-minded people. They started getting towards land, but in the end, they said there was one person who basically, in their words, wanted to run it like a cult and wanted everybody to kind of obediently follow them. And that just, people just after a while said, we're done here. We're not coming. And before you know it, the group falls apart. I don't let one toxic person destroy things. I'm not saying you need to physically throw them out of the room or anything, but if you recognize that there's somebody or a couple of people that are consistently the problem, maybe take the people who are like-minded and that you're getting along with and create your own group. Don't be stuck on just what somebody has already built if it's not working for you.
Yeah, like you got 5 people, this person's conflict drama, the other 4 people can come over here and then start your own group. And then, let them know like, hey, you're not welcome in our group until you can address A, B, and C and figure this out. Right. So it doesn't have to be that same group. Just put a different hat on. Somebody asked where the hat's from. It's from Polyface Farm. We went and did the land summit there with Joel Salatin. Before we go to Keegan and Don, Deb asks, are freedom cells religious? There's a lot of religious talk here. That was just me, Deb. I wear my heart on my sleeve, and I've been going through a spiritual journey, and I see all the work that I do is spiritual. But to answer your question, no. Freedom cells aren't religious by nature at all. It's kind of just like it's a template. It's a framework. It's a community of people. And then you also ask, are there pagan freedom cells? Not that I know of, but if you're pagan or you want to connect with other pagans and use this organization or this community, then by all means. I know some pagan folks that are overlapping community and stuff. So freedom cells aren't religious. That's just me. And while me and Derrick may be figureheads or you see us often, we're not the Freedom Cell Network either. We're just doing what we can to lead the charge and to organize and to find other people that can step up and make stuff happen. So if something I say or Derrick says ever triggers anybody or whatever, we're not the network. We're just doing our best to navigate through things here. Okay, let's go to Mr. Keegan. How are you there, Mr. Keegan? Do you have something to share? Or
I'm great. I'm great. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, everything's going good.
Awesome. I just want to say, please don't call me Mr. Keegan because I'm just Keegan. That's fine.
Okay.
But, I love, some people don't like the name Freedom Cells. You mentioned them. I like it a lot. I think it's because it's acknowledging we're part of the body of the Mother Earth. And that person who asked about a pagan freedom cell, yes, let's do it. I'm in Montenegro, though, so this is truly international, like on the other side of the Atlantic. But yeah, I've got the first freedom cell announcement made in this country anyway. I'm still yet to get an actual group of people together to do this, but we have an organization here that's called Montelibero. That's mostly Russians, and they're freedom-minded people build an alternative system, and they're kind of headquartered just close by where I am, but it's like a decentralized thing. But yeah, I mentioned in the comments I'm doing an Aquarian Renaissance Indigenous Revival Summit, getting together a lot of people that are kind of experts in I have Bradley Logan, with the Trinity Law Method, and other people who are, helping us move into an understanding of ourselves as identified with nature, so that we can be free, so we can be cells in the body of our planet and actually come back to a sense of belonging and community again. So that's happening July 7th to 11th, and there's a link in the comments. It's just ARIRS or ARIRsummit.com. And then also I'm doing a weekly call at this same time that you started this webinar, which is a free Zoom call. I call it Aquarian Renaissance Roundtable. If anybody wants to speak more about, freedom and help each other, go deeper into this type of stuff, so we can move into a mature way of relating with each other from our authentic authority, one and the same with all life, aligned with our divine purpose, and no longer distracted by the corporatocracy and all their narratives of division. So appreciate what you guys are doing, and if anybody wants to do a pagan freedom cell in Montenegro,
John,
Cool.
I want to just chime in on that real quick, and thank you, Keegan, for sharing.
Thanks, Keegan.
That sounds really cool. I saw your event going around recently. Just on the idea real quick about like specialized freedom cells, because we tend to talk about freedom cells focused on locality, where you're physically at, because a lot of people are looking for people in their local community, and that's what our focus is on. And I still think that should be the main focus. But I have seen people, for example, somebody created on Telegram a vegan freedom cell, which they were, it's not based in one location. Obviously, it's just about this diet specifically, or your kind of ethics around that. But it's a place for people who are into freedom cells and also vegan to maybe share ideas and talk. And that could be the same thing with like a pagan group. Now, maybe let's say I was to start a Houston freedom cell, but I wanted to explicitly start a Christian freedom cell. Then just put that in the messaging, put that in the description on the website or in your Telegram group. If you're like specifically looking for just that type of person, then make that explicitly clear, so that we don't waste anybody's time. I think, for me personally, it's like I want to work with as many people as I can who get the principles and values. And I think you kind of end up naturally weeding out the people who aren't really serious, over time. But if you are more focused and you want pagans or Christians or vegans or whatever, and you want to be focused on the people in your local area, just make that clear.
Yeah, and we call it like, look at Twin Cities Freedom Cell has their own website. Shout out Twin Cities Freedom Cell for building a website to help organize. Love that. Yeah, we have geographic freedom cells, which is like we're freedom people getting together to work on projects in person. And then I think we call them single issue freedom cells. But that's like we're just trying to build solidarity across the world based on a spiritual practice, or based on the food preferences, or we're all way into crypto or whatever. There's a freedom job seekers. There's a technology one. So Keegan, and then the person that was commenting, and then another person, Michael, said, hey, I'll do a pagan group. I'm not Wiccan, but I'm pagan or whatever. So you guys could organize it right now. If somebody goes to Telegram, spins up a group, shares the invite link, and is like, it's the Pagan Freedom Cell group. The idea is when this thing gets so big, you have the Pagan Freedom Cell group. Then within the Pagan Freedom Cell group, people are like, wait a second, I'm also in Texas. Then you meet in person, right? So thanks for sharing that. And thanks, Keegan, for hopping on. And thanks, everybody, for being a part of this.
Check the comments, Keegan. There's people asking for your social media, too. So check that if you're still
share
here.
those links, and feel free to share your summit there. Okay, Mr. Don, how are you? What's on your mind?
I'm fine. Thanks a lot for doing this. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, it's coming through loud and clear.
Okay, good. I think it's great you're doing this. Freedom Cells and the People's Reset changed my life considerably. And we had for a while during COVID, 40 to 50 people regularly coming to our Freedom Cell meetings. We broke into subgroups and it all kind of petered out during COVID. But what I wanted to talk about was this concept of what is freedom and what is, how do you prepare? There's a preparedness level of forming an intentional community. That means you've got to look at why 95% of them fail. And it's not because they don't have land, people, and money. It's because they don't have these soft issues worked out. How to make decisions, how are we going to do conflict resolution, and hopefully shadow work, because everybody's bringing baggage into this concept of freedom. You've got to look at that. It's going to come up. So having an agreement of what constitutes someone who's an energy suck and how are you going to get rid of them, for me, freedom means getting down and working out the differences. If somebody isn't going to work out differences, to me, that's not freedom. And I'll just tell you one of the many problems I had leading this Freedom Cells. I wanted to bring in someone who was an expert on meeting facilitation by consensus. People said, no, we don't want consensus. We want to have a free meeting, and we don't want to bring some stranger in. So I don't know how you deal with those kind of issues when people don't have different, like, okay, some people are into birth control, some are not. Does that have to do with freedom or not? I don't know. There's a tremendous number of issues that you could put under the banner of freedom that are going to be conflictual. And if you don't define what your boundaries are, then you don't have freedom. Mike, so can you piggyback on this idea?
Yeah.
What is freedom?
That's a great question to bring up. So maybe look at things like concentric circles. And this goes back to Derrick as he was sharing this concept of a zone of consent. In fact, I've been familiar with sociocracy, but I didn't dive deep. I first heard zone of consent when Derrick and I were co-organizing. It was called the Greater Reset at the time. And, we would butt our heads from time to time, or probably pretty often. But I wanted to do something. And Derrick's like, okay, I'm that's not how I would do it, but it's within my zone of consent. And I was like, oh, shit. I thought, and I instantly was like, that's such a mature way of going about things. Because obviously we're aligned and we work well together, but we've had some differences on this or that. But for something to express that that's not really what I would do. I don't think that's the best idea, but I'm open to it because I see that it's important to you. It was like a mutual respect thing. So I thought that was powerful. So on that same token, I would bring a bigger group together. If there's a large group, and I'd lay out like, what are our principles? What are we about? Principles as in philosophically, self-ownership, mutual respect, bodily autonomy, whatever, right? And then what are our strategies for relating to one another? We use nonviolent communication to solve conflict. We use sociocracy to make these decisions, right? Now, in the beginning, you have an organizing group. And ideally, people are open-minded and open-hearted to figuring some stuff out, because how are we going to know if it works for our group if we don't experiment or try? But let's say that you, Mr. Don, are like really, really committed to sociocracy, and you've done groups for years, and they always fall apart if sociocracy isn't a part of it. And you're like, I really am passionate about us doing sociocracy as we create this group. And somebody else is like, no, sociocracy, that's like some hippie thing. All it does is create friction, and we're never going to be able to get things done. Well, then you could bring up the zone of consent idea to them. But ultimately, if you're so passionate about sociocracy and it's necessary for you, Don, then you could say, look, then I'd like to propose that anybody that is as passionate about sociocracy being a part of it as I am, I'm going to take lead on starting a group with sociocracy at the core. If people are so bothered and offended by sociocracy that they don't want to have anything to do with that, then you guys can do your thing. I still think that we should get together as a larger group and connect. And you guys want to lead with this method, and we're going to lead with this method. Let's still meet up every once in a while and let's see what's working and what's not working, right? It's just like people are so damn stubborn, myself included. It's like just try to go with the flow. And the beauty of this is that at the essence of the Freedom Cell Network, the most important component is that small inner cadre of 3, 4, 8 people, right? And then you connect with other inner cadres. So you can have an inner cadre that uses majority rules, or that everybody's just so in awe by this one dude or person, and they just like crush all the time. And everyone's like, we don't even want to have a decision making. We'll just follow this guy's lead. And then you're like, no, I think horizontal is more effective. This can be the cadre that's organized horizontally. This can be the cadre that's organized with whatever methodology, and we can still be part of a larger cadre. But we just don't really make very many decisions as that group because we didn't ever come up with the structure. And you know what you'll find over time is if you're just like, okay, well, this is really important and I feel confident in my ability to put this into practice and bring others along with me, who's ever jamming the most effectively, the most open-minded, and there really is something to the horizontal thing. It's not a necessary piece of organizing in a freedom cell group, but anybody that's organized enough will tell you, you want to have shared power. I've been in situations where there wasn't shared power, like our community. It was me and Rebecca's land. And then we had people renting an RV, and that power struggle, man, I don't want to do a community like that. I mean, I want to do it like that with different people, but in the ultimate thing is like a more shared power like Derrick's doing, because the dynamics ultimately, if people haven't done the work, myself included, it ends up turning into something. So that's what I would say, Don. Like, you as an individual, what's important to me? A, B, and C. You, the guy that's meeting up with us, what's important to you? C, D, and E. Well, we align on C, so let's jam on C. And I'm passionate about A and B. I'm going to do that over here. He's passionate about E and F. He's going to do that over here. But we're going to come together on C.
Thanks.
Yeah.
One thing I would add on an individual level, when I meet somebody that I don't agree with, I try and go into a curiosity mode instead of being conflictual. Why does this person believe the way they do? What led up to their belief system? Things like that help me sometimes get more solid in my belief. On the other hand, maybe I become more open to what they've gone through in their life.
I love it.
Yeah. I want to add a couple of thoughts there just to piggyback on. Thanks, Don, for the comment. And I see there's a lot in the chat. And also, Don, make sure to put your contact info because a few people asked for it in the chat as well. So I'll just share a brief story. When I first started the activist group that I originally started in 2010, the Houston Freethinkers, it was me and my girlfriend at the time and 2 or 3 people, the only friends I had who didn't think I was crazy were like, let's start a group. Okay, well, what are we going to do? And the first thing was, let's make a Facebook page. We just started super simple. Like, okay, we need a place to share news and share information. And when it was just 5 of us, we just kind of got together and said, hey, you guys want to go hold some signs outside the Federal Reserve? Cool, we'll do that. Hey, you guys want to print out some flyers and go pass them out at the music festival? Okay, we'll do that. And then over months, as we started to go out and hit the streets and kind of started to recruit people, we realized, okay, we need to have meetings and let's have public meetings. Let's post them on Facebook. When people used to look for events on Facebook, let's put up flyers. And then we start having these monthly meetings, and it's not just the 5 of us anymore. Now public people start showing up and they want to get involved regularly, and things start rolling and growing. And those 5 original people kind of became the core group. And in the beginning, it was even like we weren't even certain what to do or how to approach it, because we were trying to be very transparent about what we were doing. And we even had this big discussion of, should we tell the people who are showing up that there's a core group of people who are kind of currently making the decisions? I think we honestly overthought it, because at the time it was just a small activist group, but we were just trying to be super transparent. And most of the people were coming on a monthly basis. They would come once a month to the meetings. They might come to one of our picnics or barbecues. Maybe they come to a protest or a garden day, but they were just people who came in their free time. And the core group was kind of the hardcore people who are working on this regularly. And we came to a point where we started having these conversations, like, should we get more organized? How should we approach this? One of the members, who was a good friend of mine, he was very adamant that we needed more structure. He wanted there to be like official positions, officers, treasurer, this kind of thing, right? And there was some of us who'd had a lot of experience with that. I didn't have much experience, but my good buddy who is still involved, he was like, look, I've done that my whole life. I'm over Robert's Rules of Order. I'm over this kind of thing. Like, I'm not doing that whole thing again. And we decided, let's keep it loose. Let's keep it spontaneous. And that was actually to the point where my friend who suggested the more organization, he decided to leave. It wasn't like necessarily bad blood, but he decided like, yeah, I want more organization than this group is currently offering. And we honestly stuck with it that way for 7 or 8 years while we held meetings. We just sort of let it be loose, and that worked for us for a while. But honestly, there were times, and John, you might remember this, where I reached out to John and I'm like, the group's not doing anything when I go out of town. Like, things aren't happening because people have now become dependent, or they just expect Derrick to set the next meeting or Derrick to do the next planning. And that wasn't cool, because I wanted to be able to leave and go do other activism or journalism or whatever, and then know that back in Houston, the group's still working. And it was a little different than a freedom cell, but still the point was, we did get to a point where I was I was getting burnout, and thankfully other people did get activated and excited, and they would step up and they would host the meetings. And so it did happen, but then it ebbs and flows. And there was periods where I realized, in fact, whenever the Houston Freethinkers basically came to an end, because I realized that if I didn't set the next meeting, it wasn't going to happen. And I kept doing it. I kept trying to keep the sauce going. And like I said, it would be up and it'd be down, but it just started to kind of peter out. And I made the decision, even though this was like my lifeblood for 8 years, I said, all right, I'm not going to organize the next meeting. And if people want this, they'll step up and they'll make it happen. And unfortunately, that was the end of the Houston Freethinkers, and, it is what it is. That was an important part of my life. But so I just share that to say that I think you can be organized if it fits for you, but also I do think some people, and it could just be personality types, some people shy away from too much organization. Organization isn't inherently bad, but maybe there's a way to find the best of both worlds. Maybe you have a small little couple of group of people like we had, the core group, that are the ones that make sure a meeting date gets set. And that doesn't mean you can't end the meeting. Like I would always say, hey guys, so we have some ideas for a protest on the 13th of next month. Does that work for everybody? And some people would say, yeah, I'll be there. Others would say, oh, I won't be able to make it. But, we were still open to ideas and suggestions. And at the end of the day, that core group was the one that just kind of pushed the ball going forward, and people still had input and things like that. That might work for some of you. Maybe you want to be more organized, but yeah, I just want to share that. And I'm about to change my camera battery because it looks like it's dying.
Okay. Hey, thanks a lot, Don. Appreciate you. Okay, great. Let's continue on with the Q&A. I invited a couple other folks up to the stage. Let's see, a couple questions about the Trinity model. I'll just hit these real quick. Can you create a trust and get a bank account without having to share your social security number with the bank? So in order to get an EIN, which you get on behalf of the trust or the church or the PMA, you have to give a social security number when you do the EIN document. Then you get a separate separate EIN for the trust itself. That's what you give to the bank. Okay. And again, livefree.academy/Trinity if you want to do the free webinar. Asana says, Trinity model, are there the legislation John talks about only related to the US? No, you can do a non-statutory trust anywhere. You can do a private membership association anywhere. And in doing this work, you break free of the idea that we're dependent on a political jurisdiction. This goes beyond nation states and political jurisdictions. PMAs, non-statutory trusts. 508c1a is literally a section in the IRS code that says if you're a church, you're not required to file for an exemption. You just are accepted. It's an exception. And you don't have to file annual returns. That's in the US. If you're operating in the private realm and you want to go full on and you're just like, I'm a free private human being and we're doing it in the private realm and we never opted into your system voluntarily, in most countries, especially common law, British origin, Canada, France, a lot of these countries, you can still be free. But 508c1a has a added layer of protection. But there's folks like Jonathan England, Earthwaking Village. He's in Costa Rica. They have a 508 based in the US. You can have a 508 church and you're doing missionary work in other countries. You can have a partner in the US. So there's all sorts of different strategies, but I don't want to get into that in the weeds there. Just check out the webinar. That'll tap you into what we're doing. livefree.academy/community. Can I get help here for creating a PMA for my holistic healing business? Email us, johnbush@livefree.academy, if anybody's interested in learning more about this path. But we do have a free webinar, which makes things easy to understand. So I want to throw that there. Alacanta just shared her Telegram link. Share that in the chat there. Alacanta, we'd love to hear about that. John, where's your hat from? Lunatic Farmer. It's a Joel Salatin hat. You can get it at his website. Just search Polyface Farms. Another question here about the PMA. Do you guys use business trust within the PMA system or MIAs? Just join the webinar. Reach out to us, johnbush@livefree.academy, and we'd love to talk more with you about this approach. Asana says, I would be happy to share my experiences and offer some useful insights and questions. Does anyone have information on freedom communities in Idaho? Or what cities, a town to visit to find freedom-minded people? Any city or town, just show up, start going to farmers markets, prepper meetings, homeschool meetings, Libertarian Party, whatever. Talk to people, but use the website freedomcells.org or the Telegram group to find people and ask in the chat there. Can't find a way to connect in Oklahoma. It all falls to a time-sucking experience. Any suggestions that honor time investment that would be very helpful, technically speaking. You know, Sharon, in all honesty, sometimes it takes time, but you know, that time will pay off if you're persistent. A lot of people give up early, right before a big breakthrough. I want to encourage you to use the Telegram group, use the Freedom Cell group, try to connect with Mike Swatek through the agorist.market. He's in Oklahoma. I know for a fact there's a Patriot Freedom community in Oklahoma, and there are Freedom Cell groups in Oklahoma. Alicante is asking for people near the Alps. Guys, keep the Q&A if you have a question for Derrick and I, or if you want to share something that that you can't do in the chat there. I need to move anywhere in USA. Any idea on how to find a community in need of an outsider? I would encourage you to move to Central Texas personally. We got a lot of cool stuff going on here in Central Texas. Grace, but connect in the groups. If not Telegram, what messaging service is more secure? What's your favorite? I know Hakeem's got a lot of good research on this. What do you suggest besides Signal?
So I personally don't use Signal, but without getting into whole debate on which, everybody's got their favorites. I use Session. I like Session. The reason I like Session, there's also another one that's similar to Session that I can't think of right now. But the reason I like it originally is because you don't need an email to sign up. You don't need a phone number. That's one of the reasons I strayed away from Signal originally, because, and I think this may have changed recently, but originally you needed a phone number to sign up with Signal. And I know that you need the same thing for Telegram, but I was trying to use Signal for privacy purposes, and to me it defeated the purpose when I join, and then it notifies everybody who has my number, hey, Derrick just joined Signal. There's also Simplex, which a couple people have put in there. The one thing I will say that makes those other ones difficult compared to what we're used to with Telegram is the functionality is not the same. So in Session, you can have one-on-one private chats with no email, no phone number. And there are groups, but it's kind of like a group where anybody can chat. There's not like, it's not a channel, like in the sense of I have a Derrick Broze daily news channel on Telegram where I can broadcast and people can follow and just comment. They don't have that set up. And also they don't have individual topics. So for example, if you just want a free for all chat with a few of your Telegram Freedom Cell buddies, you can have that through things like Session and some of these other platforms, but they don't have the same functionality as Telegram with kind of these hyper, organized chats and topics and that sort of thing, which is what I typically use it for. But ultimately, use whatever works for your Freedom Cell and for your group. And even if you say you meet through Telegram and you decide, hey, we're going to take this to Nostr, which we need some Freedom Cells on Nostr. You take it to, Session, Signal, whatever. I keep forgetting the other one I'm thinking of. Whatever you use, just do what works best for you. That's kind of the whole point. Don't assume because we're using one thing, that's what everybody needs to use.
I just want to encourage folks not to get too, like, if you have an Android or Apple phone and you don't have an above phone, for example, this is an Android. I have an above phone, but I don't use it as my primary phone. I really should. Literally, and you have Facebook or Instagram or many of these mainstream apps, even without them, every single thing you say within microphone shot of the phone is being sucked in. So if you're spending all your time, like, what's the best messenger to use with my group, but you just have an Android or an Apple phone, you're kind of like, it's kind of a, not the most consistent thing there.
When we first had our Freedom Cells meetings, we had a rule of when people would come, like we were just meeting at my house originally, we had the little basket where everybody put their phone in the front and kind of covered it and kept it in the one room. And we went and met in the other room where there was no computers and no laptops.
Love that.
That's, if you want to practice your privacy and actually flex those muscles, then like John's saying, it's kind of defeats the purpose if you're going to have a privacy messenger, but you have all the devices around you listening to you. So with your Freedom Cell, it might be a great thing to start using some of your privacy practices.
And like, as somebody, I do online courses and marketing and stuff. It's like, what's most important to me beyond 100% best privacy, which I'm a big fan of Session also, is what are people going to show up and actually use? And we've found that Telegram has a large network effect of a lot of people that already have the app, or it's very simple to access, and they can find other people doing freedom stuff too. That's an important thing as well. But that's great feedback from Derrick on some of the good platforms. Hayden says, what do you think about the Free State Project? I'm a big fan. I have a long history with the Free State Project, going back to 2011, going to their Pork Fest event. There's a huge agorist contingent there. There are Freedom Cell groups in Free State Project, New Hampshire. This is an effort to get as many Liberty people as possible moving to New Hampshire. There's probably a good 6,000 or 8,000 by now that have actually moved there. They're very active in the political system, which is, positive. It's not my cup of tea, but they have a lot of legislators that are elected and trying to reduce the size of government. And then there's a ton of community and people. It is very, very libertarian, like Ron Paul style, Murray Rothbard, huge emphasis on that. They're very, very adamant about libertarianism, which isn't a problem per se, but if that's not your cup of tea, then, just be aware that that's what a lot of them are focused on. But great people, some drama. There's drama, but there's drama in any movement of 8,000 people all populating a small state. But
John,
I'm a big fan.
Did you see this comment here? I'm putting it on. I don't know if you already covered this one that says, regarding drama and communication, I recommend the book Crucial Conversations, 3rd edition. Publicly traded corporation I worked for had this book as mandatory training. I don't know if we covered that. Just wanted to share that recommendation. Crucial Conversations.
I don't know. Sounds like a good one. I'm a big Marshall Rosenberg MVC fan. I just bought one of his courses, actually, although I think the course is available online for free on YouTube. It was only like $57, but they work in a lot of written material. So yeah, it's just important to have some kind of system in place. So thank you so much for sharing that resource. Cash is asking about People's Reset England. Are we expecting another People's Reset in England this year? If so, perhaps it could be more focused on galvanizing people to organize. Cash asks.
Cash, good to see you here. We don't have anything planned for 2025. It's June right now, and I'm pretty much focusing on what we're doing in Mexico. But I do think we're going to do something in 2026. Dan, Aston Gregory, and I have had some chats. I will say that we had a great time when we did the People's Reset UK. We want to continue to grow it. We have talked, though, about not doing it in the UK, largely, unfortunately, because of the way things are going. We understand that sometimes we need to come into the belly of the beast, so to speak, but we also want to get further into Europe as well and reach people there. And I think it might be not too difficult for some folks to travel to some of the places. So we've talked about Portugal, maybe. A few people have suggested Germany. Maybe Germany wouldn't be a great shot either, but we're open to ideas. So Cash, feel free to reach out to me if you've got ideas. What we really count on is people like Dan Aston Gregory or somebody who's got contacts on the ground, who knows other activists, who knows venues and can really help make it easier for us. And then what we do on our end is put our whole network behind it and push it and make it happen.
Alex Zeck does a great event called Confluence. It's here in Texas. Such a good, lot of overlap. He's doing a, find the others kind of project as well. Really respect the Zeck guy. So they host this big event. The most recent one had like 400 or 500 people. And then people were like, we want to do a reunion over here in California. So because everyone was so excited about the event, they just hosted their own little smaller meetup, although I think there was like 100 people. So I don't think Derrick would mind or anyone would mind if you're like, hey guys, we're getting the People's Reset family back together over here in London at this venue. And we just want to, and you can even have some speakers and stuff and just call it a People's Reset reunion, self-organized or whatever. So it's another one of those things, right? And I understand everyone has busy lives and whatnot, but it doesn't always have to be Derrick or Dan Aston Gregory getting folks together. Like host a little thing, do whatever. Maybe it turns into a big thing, and I'm sure, use the brand as long as you're aligned with the principles or whatever, or it's just a reunion or whatever. We're just all about getting people to come and meet up and connect. So consider that. I'm sure you'll find other people that will help you organize too.
We got another comment, John, I want to share. So something you mentioned, Confluence. Somebody just said, we have a gathering in Kansas City inspired by Alex X, Confluence, on July 26th. We are excited to meet local community and to promote Freedom Cells, from Joanne. Really awesome, Joanne. We also have, I think they should still be on the website. If not, they're in the Telegram for sure, and you can reach out to either one of us. We created a while back just these simple, basic templates for Freedom Cells that had space for you to put your own local contact group that says like, hey, looking for like-minded people, etc. So feel free, guys, whether it's Freedom Cells or the People's Reset, to take the name, take the idea, if you believe in the values, and then put out flyers, start marketing to people, promoting it in your areas. And so that's July 26th in Kansas City, in case anybody else is around.
I might go to that. Yeah, Zeck's great. We're trying to have a conversation with Zeck about how we can further collaborate on this whole find other people thing. So Definitely a big fan of Confluence and the community that he has organized as well. My primary challenge questions: how to effectively increase awareness of the urgent need for alternative systems, how to reduce the effect of money on local capacity for development of local alternative systems. What do you think, Derrick? You've been pounding away on a lot of some of the pressing issues in your journalism. What's a good way to catalyze or whatever?
I increase awareness of the urgent need for alternative systems, reduce the effect of money. Well, I mean, it's hard to motivate people for sure to increase awareness. And, some freedom cells might not be focused on that. They might just solely specifically be focused on projects and we're going to build gardens and do this and that. I do think there's a space for, especially if you have the concerns Greg does about increasing awareness, because sometimes the problem is, hey, I'm not getting anybody to come to my meetings because they all think the world's great and there's nothing to worry about. So in that case, you might feel like you need to put a little bit of energy into trying to quote unquote wake up people, or at least get them to be concerned enough to seek a solution, right? Because if people don't know there's a problem, they're definitely not looking for the solution to it. And I think that just involves getting on the ground. I don't know if this is Greg, the Greg that I know, but try to lead by example. I still am a big believer in hosting meetups and teach-ins and putting out flyers. The internet's great, of course, but sometimes a flyer in your local coffee shop will get attention to somebody before a YouTube video will, or a TikTok video. Put up flyers in your area that says, hey, are you concerned about technocracy? Go out and wheat paste and put up some different propaganda. It can be simple. You can use even kind of key terms like that, technocracy. If somebody knows what technocracy means, they're going to see that and they're immediately like, wow, somebody else in my town is mentioning technocracy. I need to contact them. Okay, they're having a meetup on this date, or they have an email address here or whatever. Or it could be, just general, like looking for solutions, looking for like-minded people. Or you could be more explicit, and say, hey, come help us defeat the New World Order by building the world we want, things like that. As far as reducing the effect of money on the local capacity for development of local alternative systems. Yeah, obviously some of the things we're talking about do take capital investment. You have to take time away from maybe doing work or other things to get organized. If you want to go build a garden, there's going to be some supplies you need to buy. You can pool those resources, but a lot of us are struggling already, and maybe the idea of spending extra money on activist things doesn't sound that appealing for you. But I know that there's people who believe in barter or crypto or precious metals. I personally don't think money is an issue, like in terms of I'm not trying to abolish money. I wish I had more money to do some of my goals and things like that. I'm not against it. And I want each of us out here to really work on manifesting more. My goal isn't to abolish money. It's like, how do we actually recognize that money can be problematic, it can be divisive, it can be part of the evil in some ways. I don't think it's the root of all evil. But if we all focused on the opposite, and not saying we need to be solely driven by money, but it would really be great if at our freedom events we didn't have a bunch of broke people trying to get together to figure out how to to make a better world. And unfortunately, that's kind of common in our freedom communities, where some of us are more established and maybe awake and got retirement and this and that and money put away, or some people got rich off crypto or whatever. But a lot of people are just struggling, day-to-day working class people. I totally get that. I'm right there with you, but I've been able to slowly increase my abundance. I think it just takes time. So for me, as far as the money piece, I would say, how do we come together as a freedom cell and think up some entrepreneurship ideas? How do we create our own local businesses and create ways that we can provide for ourselves? Maybe you're not paying every single bill, but maybe you at least get to the point where your freedom cell has a little bit of a bank of money that y'all can pull from to do the projects that y'all want to do.
Yep, good stuff. I got something to add on your first part of the question: how to effectively increase awareness of the urgent need for alternative systems. There's a classic marketing and sales principle, which is to play into the conversation already taking place in your prospect's mind. Like meditate on what are folks thinking about at the dinner table? What are they messaging their local freedom group about? And so then you start talking about how alternative systems is a solution to that. Like obviously the latest thing is the bombing of Iran. Before that, it's been really big concerns about the economy or these immigration riots. And so like you start putting out content, or you talk to people about what's going on and why freedom cells or alternative systems are valuable, because that's what everybody's thinking about. That's what everybody's amped up about at the time. You can capture that excitement and try to direct it towards real proactive solutions. And then the money thing, another classic thing is like Jim, I think it was Jim Rohn. He said, you can get it. No, Zig Ziglar. You can get anything you want in life as long as you help other people to get what they want. So to echo what Derrick was sharing, like, let's get our group together and figure out if we could offer some kind of service. We got some good gardeners. And what if we go and, you pay us $250 and we go dig a few garden beds in your backyard and give you a 1-hour instructional course on how to get it started. $250, we take that, put it in our PMA bank account or hold on to it or whatever. And, now we're starting to build something. So that's what I would suggest. Okay, we got some guests here. We have Alacanta. How are you guys? What would y'all like to add to the conversation?
Ale, Lucas.
Hi, guys. Can you hear us all right?
We can hear you're a little bit quiet. Maybe just try to speak up a little.
Well, we're outdoors, sorry. Yeah, so just wanted to drink.
Are you guys on a microphone? Do you have a microphone on your headphones?
Yes.
There
Can you hear me now better?
That's much better.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so thank you for the initiative, and just like to speak from my side, and I think also from your side. The Freedom Cells and People's Reset, Greater Reset, has really changed our lives. So
we make sure to keep it close to your mouth so everybody could hear. Yep. Thank you.
Let's see. Yeah, just as I was telling that the Freedom Cells platform and the Greater Reset, People's Reset Now initiative has really changed our lives, and I encourage everyone to join your local Freedom Cell. We shared a bit of our experience in Mexico, specifically in the central part of Mexico, with a multicultural group of people, all ages, all nationalities, Mexicans, foreigners, and we had a lot of fun and successes, also issues like Don was describing. But yeah, you can watch this presentation that we did, I think, 3 years ago.
I think it was on the People's Reset number 3, the first one in Morelia.
Yeah.
We shared our experience and also tips and how what worked for us, basically how we got, because we came new to a town, and in a really short amount of time we got a lot of people connected and really into it, and bridges being built and lives changed really. And it was really just because we took initiative. One of the harder parts was for others also to take initiative, because eventually we left and things kind of crumbled, or at least they slowed down. And also, of course, because the pandemic kind of came to an end eventually. But yeah, it's really, for me, it was a powerful experience to see what effect it has whenever I take initiative. I go out and do something new that I like. I become the pioneer, as it's often said. If there's no freedom cell around you, then maybe it's up to you to start that. And we recently had another experience similar in another part of Mexico. We started to also connect the dots and see a lot of people who are kind of sharing the same mindset and basic values or level of consciousness, and we created just a get together. We called it Metamorphosis, and we did it in collaboration with local people. And again, it sparked a new thing. And yeah, that's just some examples of what can be done. And we're also happy to share our experience along that line if people want to reach out to us, what has worked, what has not.
Yeah. Excellent.
Yeah. I just want to add to that, because these guys are amazing. For those who didn't see their presentation when it was the Greater Reset a couple years ago, you can find that on our Odyssey channel. And guys, did y'all start a new group? I saw you were sharing a link, and y'all have an event coming up too, right?
Yes, that's right. We are now more based in Veracruz. This is southeast of Mexico, and we just gather up friends who had something to share, I don't know, experiences or knowledge, or just to, I don't know, how to create community. What was also featured was about German new medicine, and people showed interest. They came, friends, people who didn't have idea about it. It was in a local brewery, so people just attending the brewery and having some beer and just listening, and then all of a sudden they hear about voluntarism. They was like, wow, okay, interesting. And then interesting conversations happening at the end, and new contacts and connections, and a lot of fun. There was also music. There was a market. What was it?
Yeah, I mean, you can really just take the template of what the people's reset is in the 5 days, the 5 topics, and kind of see what kind of fits into that from people who are active in that environment, and then just plan a schedule. You really just need to make a table and find a place. It's pretty easy. It's surprisingly easy to do these kind of things. So at least to get started, and something that I that is dear to my heart is try to make it as easy and as approachable as possible to inspire others, and really do it as somebody who is like casually doing it. I'm not somebody super talented or special or anything like that, or at least I don't want to present myself like that, so that everybody can see, hey, I can pick up the torch when these guys leave, or when I go somewhere else, or whatever, to attract the right kind of people around them.
Yeah, to this I want to add, we actually took inspiration from Derrick and Miriam's visit to Jalapa in this local brewery shop.
The activation tour, right?
Activation tour. So the owner of this place, she's our friend, and we were like, yeah, she's a neighbor actually. What do you think? We could do that, and she loved the idea. Like immediately, yeah, let's do it. And it attracted some like new people that never were in this place, so it was good for her, gave her business, and then for us as well. So it was a win-win situation. So like try to look for these win-win situations where both sides or more sides can benefit.
Also, on the money aspect, we did make it free, just so that there is a like low resistance, and it's like it's an offering to the community. And also, I mean, there's a discussion to be had, because some people say if things are free, they're not worth anything. But then also, it is, to some people, it's a barrier. And specifically in this town where we were, if it's about connecting with locals, with Mexicans and whatnot, then one cannot expect to charge US prices or whatever for these kind of things. So that's something to define. But we did ask for donations, and just like collected that in order to make the next event.
Great stuff, guys.
Yeah.
Please do make sure to put your contact info. There's a few people asking about how to get more connected to you guys in Veracruz, and just learning more about events you guys are doing. And Ale did drop the link to their talk from the People's Reset a couple years ago. You guys can check that out there. Really appreciate all the work that you guys do. You're always an inspiration and always doing something fun. So thank you for all those ideas, everybody. And I'm about to get out of here, everyone. I just wanted to say thanks to everybody, and thanks, John, for doing this. We're going to try to do another one of these in a couple of months for sure. Hopefully this has been useful. Thanks to everybody who's watching on my YouTube and Twitter and Odyssey and Facebook and everywhere else. Hopefully you guys are going to get involved in Freedom Cells. Go to freedomcells.org or go to Telegram and search for Freedom Cells. Connect to us there. You can also email me directly if you need help, intothe light@protonmail.com, intothe light@protonmail.com. Put Freedom Cells in the subject and I'll make sure to get back to you. I've got to go get my lunch. I'll talk to you guys soon.
Thanks, Derrick. Appreciate you.
Oh, yeah, John, one more thing. People were asking about the chat. I don't know if it's possible to download the chat, but if that is possible, maybe we could save that and email that out or something.
Everyone that's on this will get the replay, and then we can download it and attach it somehow, or link to it, upload it to Freedom Cells, link to it whenever we post the replay, like on Odyssey and stuff.
Cool. All right.
You'll just remind me. Okay, thanks, Derrick. All right, see you, Derrick.
Peace.
All right, I'm going to continue with these questions. I'm only going to go for about 10 more minutes, though. So let's continue on. Sharon says, I got disconnected again. Any group desire help in organizing education for their children? Extremely valuable. I'm willing to help in any way I can. I'm a second-degree Montessori teacher with lots of experience. Sharing is alignment with my soul. purpose, and joy. So there you have it, folks. Sharon, if you'll share your contact in the chat. I know there are some Freedom Cell education groups out there in the directory probably. So yeah, connect with Sharon if you're looking for somebody that can help organize education for the youngins. Here's a great question from Peter, which I got a great answer for. Any suggestion for a local garden group that is part of a larger group that's been hijacked by a narcissist? I had to leave the group that I helped start because people in the group refuse to deal with it. Peter, I would just, there's not much that you can do. So I mean, if people don't want to deal with it, if you've pled and tried to do so from a grounded, embodied place, I should say, I would just start another group. That's like the whole essence of this. And really, it's like taking your power back. There's reaction and then proactive. There's resistance and acceptance and going with the flow. It's a spiritual thing too. So I would encourage you to start another group and just start doing cool stuff and attract people. Okay. Remember, we get like all this like emphasis on the group or this Telegram group. And I know it sucks if you put a bunch of effort and energy into it. It's like, that really is a big bummer, but it's resistance-less. There's less resistance and friction if you're just like, I really can't jam with that person. And I guess people are tolerating it, but I cannot tolerate it. I'm going to take my toys out of the sandbox because there's a bully in the sandbox, and I'm going to go and start a new sandbox or join a sandbox that's already there. What else can we do? Focus on that which we have control over. And life will be a lot better for us. Faithful and Willing says, I realize this is off topic for today's events. Where are you both at around the straw man thing? So it's like a sovereignty through law kind of deal. Maybe you could do a webinar on that topic process sometime. Thanks for all you do, Derrick and John. I was so closed off to this sovereignty through law, sovereign straw man, sovereign citizen, which is an oxymoron, the trust account tied to your social security, private realm, PMA, Trinity, all this stuff. But I got cracked open on it recently. And really, at the end of the day, the strategy that you employ is less important than remembering who you are. And like Brandon Joe Williams said, he's got some pretty out there strategies, which I'm not a fan of. But he said something at this Q&A at Confluence 2 or 3 years ago. And he was like, just pick a strategy, commit to it, and take the ball and just run it down the field towards victory. So if you're trying to live free, if you're trying to stop paying this or that, just pick something and commit to it, because it's all just like tools to help us assert our sovereignty in an unfree world. But the most important thing is recognizing that you're free already and gaining the confidence and empowerment in order to express that freedom. That's 99% of the work. And sometimes these tools, the Trinity, the straw man, the sending in this, the certified that, the state national or whatever, it just gives us a little bit more confidence and courage to stop complying with that which is unlawful. Lisa S. says, hi, John. Does Cynthia's group, Foundation for Intentional Communities, provide help starting a community? So she's no longer part of Foundation for Intentional Communities, but she's still affiliated and works with them closely. She actually has a group called Community Finders. I'll drop the link, Community Finders. And then my wife, Rebecca, also helps her with another thing, Eco Village Tours, which is cool. If you want to learn from existing eco villages, or if you're looking to move to an eco village, there's Community Finders. And there's also Eco Village Tours. My wife works with Cynthia. We're big fans of Cynthia Tina. I'm a huge fan, actually. I think we've kind of rubbed off on her on a little bit of our freedom and entrepreneurial and extremist views, because she came and hung out with us at the Land Summit multiple times. And she was a little more liberal and that vibe. And I think, I don't know, I'm just a big fan of Cynthia Tina. She does such good work, and she's such a sweetheart too. So anybody that's interested in eco villages, building an intentional community, finding an intentional community to move to, communityfinders.com. Let her know John Bush, Live Free Academy sent you to communityfinders.com. Let her know you've learned about it through a Freedom Cell event. or ecovillagetours.com if you want to go on one of their tours. I think they have one spot for the Vermont tour left. And it's really cool people, a lot of freedom people, a lot of other folks too. So don't go around expecting everybody's going to think exactly like you do. There could be some people, maybe there's even someone wearing a mask, who knows, but let it be opportunity to express your tolerance. There's a lot of freedom people too that are, all of our networks are all intertwined and interwoven, which is a very beautiful and powerful thing. Timothy Maurice, what if I have some Spanish, but I want to learn more? I just reach out directly to Derrick. He shared his email earlier, into the light at protonmail.com, Mr. Timothy, into the light. Somebody's asking, John, why did you change your first real estate broker? You shared someone else at the Exit and Build 2024. That gentleman who is our realtor moved to Colorado. And we also connected with the other woman who is helping us now. And oh, shoot, there was a website you could go to actually sign up for her stuff. livefree.academy/realtor. Is that what it was? That'd be nice. Her name's Deb, though. No. So Deb, Texas Realtor Ranch. Let me see if that shows up. Deb Rowland, Deb Dahlberg Rowland. If anybody's looking for a realtor wanting to move to the Texas area, Rebecca and I have worked with Deb in the past. She's great. She's got a focus on homesteading. She's a freedom person. Earthwaking Village has Bridgebuck Banks. They're doing cool stuff to help bridge between the dollar and the private realm. Shout out Earthwaking Village, Jonathan England and his work. Aaron says, what about virtual freedom cells if you wanted to focus on learning and sharing topics? Aaron, by all means, create a virtual single issue freedom cell, share it on Telegram, share it in the freedom cell group. When someone tells you, so you're going to start a cult, if that's what they think, that, you know, this Jonathan England at Earthwaking Village, there are folks that are like, that's a cult, and people have a high reverence for this one individual leader. I've done work with Jonathan and done his spiritual work, and it's actually been pretty powerful stuff. But there's this great comment that he says, and he's like, we're a cult. People that think we're a cult are the ones that are in a cult, like the cult of statism, the cult of doing everything your doctor says, the cult of just the old way of doing things, which is like all upside down, convoluted, distorted, twisted, dark, satanic, yucky. So if someone says you're going to start a cult, then whatever. Why do you care so much about what people think about you? That's where real freedom lies, Mr. Fred. So I just encourage you to ignore them and move on. It's not a cult. It's just cool people getting together and doing cool stuff. What's your rebuttal? I'd say, like, take a look at, well, I don't want to get too spiritual here, but Jesus Christ said you should pay attention more to the log in your eye than the speck in your brother's eye. So you could take the log out of your eye and help them with their speck. So if somebody's pointing the finger that you're a cult, just don't take it personal. Who cares what people say? It doesn't matter. Does Cynthia have connections to freedom-minded libertarian communities? Yes, Cynthia is most definitely tapped into many freedom communities. Communityfinders.com. She's your gal. That's what she does for a living. Okay, my friends, I want to thank you so much for joining us. This has been awesome. Thank you so much for being a part of the Freedom Cell community. Things are going great in the world. I really want to encourage you to focus your energy, focus your attention, focus your intention on building beautiful things in the world with other free, powerful human beings. There's conflict, there's chaos, there's uncertainty, there's turmoil, there's bombs being dropped, there's technocracy being rolled out. The more you focus on that, the more you're going to attract that into your world. The more you focus on that, the more likely you are to be anxious, overwhelmed, feel defeated. You may very well find yourself in a dark, deep pit of despair. The more you put your time, energy, and focus into connecting with other people that care about your same values, freedom, peace, bodily autonomy, self-ownership, self-governance, responsibility, spirituality, self-reflection, nonviolent communication, growing your own food, permaculture, regenerative agriculture, being a good person, doing the work, shadow work, trauma healing, whatever. The more you find those people, connect with those people, and build stuff, do, act, create, promise you, not only will you find more joy in your life, and you'll just be like, wow, I just feel so accomplished. I feel like I'm finally connecting with what I'm supposed to be doing on this earth. I felt confused in the past. I felt pain in the past, but now I feel like, wow, things are really going well for me. And I got a great tribe of other people that I can relate to finally. The more happy you're going to be, the higher the quality of life. And on top of that, the more of us that focus our attention on the good stuff in life, building, creating joy, hanging out together, breaking bread together, the more successful we will be in our collective effort to co-create a world that aligns with the beauty, the wonder, the divinity, the light, the grace, and the freedom that we all have inside of us. So I want to thank you for being a part of this mission. I want to thank you for being a part of the Freedom community, the Freedom Cell community. And I want to encourage you guys to continue this work and to be a beacon of hope in your community. Thank you so much. Freedomcells.org if you haven't registered. Freedomcells.org if you haven't registered. I appreciate you being on the call. Until next time, bye-bye. Yeah. Freedomcells.org.